Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gals, Gays, and Days. It's a ModPod Studio Live production. I'm your host, JD Cargill, but I'm not alone. We are here in our studio in downtown, Old Town, Pasadena, California. Mariah on the engineering desk. What? Give it up for Mariah, everybody. We've got Christie's in the house today, so you know there's a KCM Connect Corner coming up in a little bit with all your marketing and branding information. And we have a very special guest as well on the sofa. It is Kaylee. It is Mariah's best friend who is still here celebrating Mariah's birth week.
What's going
Ladies
strong?
and gentlemen, Kaylee. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Let's catch everybody up.
I feel like we're like, hey, Charlie.
I know. Oh, hi, Charlie. Oh, I'll be you guys are my angels. Sorry, you ladies are my angels. If you were a Charlie's angel, which one would you be? And please tell me that you're familiar with the 1970s show with Farrah Fawcett, Victoria Jackson, and Diane Ladd.
Yeah, but I couldn't
new-
watch.
Yeah, but I
all
like
of it.
gosh, who
Barrymore.
is it? No, not Drew Barrymore, the blondie. Cameron
Cameron
Diaz.
Diaz.
She's the favorite.
She's lovely.
She really is, isn't she?
Yeah,
that
she's pretty
reboot
cool.
was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like those movies.
I do too. Who was the third? There was Lucy Liu.
Yeah,
Drew
Lucy
Barrymore,
Liu.
Lucy Liu, and then they did an even newer version, right, with Kristen Stewart.
With Kristen Stewart, yeah, and who else?
Kristen Stewart?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
That one didn't
A few
do so
years
great,
ago.
I guess, if it just came and left and you didn't know about it.
It
'Cause
didn't do that well.
I didn't. It must not
No.
have. No. So there's whenever
thought
a
it was
reboot
cool, though.
works, it's like lightning in a bottle. You know,
Yeah.
it's so rare that a good reboot really comes out, but there have been some.
Yeah.
There have been some. So, we're not the only ones enjoying our lives to the max here at Gals, Gays, and Days. Our own lifestyle correspondent, Mindalicious Burbimbo Stearns. That was a little nickname that we used to call each other back in the day, mostly me, her, and her. She would call me Jades. You know her as our, lifestyle correspondent here. She's also a co-host of mine on the Friend Some and Then Some podcast. But here in Gals, Gays, and Days, I want to make sure my besties are involved. So she and Michelle are every now and then going to be filing reports. Well, we had her live when she was in, where was she last? Fiji?
She was in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
She was in the middle of the ocean somewhere, some yacht. Now that gorgeous bee is in Tahiti.
Tahiti.
Is there a Tahiti button here? That sounds like Tahiti if I ever heard of it. Actually, it's probably like,
Oh, I love
I'm in
that.
freaking Tahiti. And so, as she does, they don't have the best cell signal there, and so we can't zoom her in. But I said, why don't you at least file a few videos just to give our viewers a taste of what you're experiencing? Because let's be honest, when you're Mindy and Glenn, it's like they're kind of... it's something to aspire to.
Yeah.
You know, Glenn is, they're a successful couple. They have access to a lot of resources in life. And who doesn't want that?
Mm-hmm.
And they love to share it with people, even if it's in just video form.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I want to take me to Tahiti.
Let's see it. Let's pull up some of this. Let's see what Mindy's, okay, so there's a view from Mindy's balcony.
I mean,
She said that
Paradise.
no filters. She did this, oh gosh, it's so nice.
no
Oh,
filter.
there's Glenn living his best. There's the undercover
Golden
billionaire.
hour.
Not so
Living the
undercover. We located. Are you guys familiar with this show?
No.
It was on the Discovery Channel, and it's really good, actually. He literally, you probably heard of Undercover Boss.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Undercover Billionaire was this show where
Wow.
Glenn took his business savvy. He was dropped in the middle of like Erie, Pennsylvania, with nothing but a pickup truck, a phone with no contacts in it, but worked, and $100. And in 90 days, he had to start a $1 million business.
Wow.
And he did it.
So crazy.
It's crazy. I think technically it was just short, but who knows? Who knows what all the details are? And then here's from inside their suite. So if you're listening on the podcast, you're seeing this sort of epic balcony with outdoor lounging and a
So
view of...
pretty.
Which ocean is the Tahiti in? The Caribbean? Is that the South Pacific? Oh God, Alexa's not even here.
Look at this.
Oh my gosh, look at the just wide open ocean, islands in the background. I think there's some Are those dolphins?
Yeah, I think maybe dolphins.
Oh my gosh. And you know what I love about Mindy? It never gets old for her. Like they get to enjoy these kinds of wonderful life perks pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And every time, I swear, it's like she's experiencing it for the first time,
Yeah.
the way she shares it with all of us. And we love that.
Yeah.
We're lucky
That's
to
very
have her.
true.
We're lucky to live vicariously through you, Mindy Stearns. And you get today's applause, laughter, and a doorbell, which usually means somebody's here. And who's
Another
here?
birthday surprise.
It's the birth. Could you imagine if we just keep your birthday going all month?
I mean, I'm okay
I
with
would
it.
love that. That'd be awesome.
Who's left to fly in? I don't know.
Yeah, just
You know who I didn't see on the Zoom call for your actual birthday, and where's your brother and your dad? Where were they for your birthday? Oh man, am I calling you out on it? Do we have to cut this out later?
I probably
Whoa.
Oh no, some people aren't into technology. Like I'm sure there's a million reasons why.
no, they are into technology.
Oh, okay. Well,
JD.
WTF family. It was our 25th birthday and we
No, my-
celebrated here. We ate the Persian food. By the way, that Persian food that your mom left was so delicious.
So good.
And it just lasted me.
You
like,
know,
throughout
I
the
went
week.
home
It's
so
great.
excited about that. The yogurt went everywhere.
No.
The rice went everywhere. I was having a great day.
Wait, in your car?
No, in my apartment. Just all over the floor, all over the
Oh,
couch, all over the chairs.
Because you were eating it with such a fury?
No, we just brought it in.
Oh, you
Sergey,
spilled it.
Calling out Sergey, he dropped it and it
Oh,
exploded
no.
across the whole place. Like it exploded everywhere.
I read an interesting article once about other things that could be used for lube in a pinch, and
Yogurt?
yogurt was really high on the list.
Really?
Fun fact.
I guess
I
because
know.
yogurt's like technically also good for you.
Yeah. No,
Topically.
there was a bunch of things
Right?
like coconut oil.
Probiotics in there.
Yeah.
And it's just they stain. So watch your sheets with the coconut oil. But yes, good
Right.
for a lube substitute. You know, we're all about information that helps you here at Gals, Gays, and Days.
Yeah.
And if you run out of lube, you gotta use some yogurt.
And some people
or-
are
Actually,
allergic, right?
coconut oil is not good for lube. Apparently, not for like girl
Not
to
for the
guy
ladies.
action.
because
Oh,
of
it's
what?
a guy- it's a
yeast
guy on.
infections.
Really?
And also because it doesn't like break down. There's like a lot of properties in coconut oil that actually shouldn't be used as lube. Let me look some up.
Yeah,
really
let's
quick.
hear about that because I literally was.
It could be like a
One point I googled
man on man, man on man.
What
lube.
Yeah, man on man action. It might be okay.
I did.
Yeah.
I probably did include something along those lines, just because I like to be specific about mine.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about any vaginas. Not a one.
Not one.
Not one. Nothing against them. I love them.
Doesn't have to worry about that
thank,
pH
Thank
level.
God they exist. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, right? But yeah, I haven't worried about someone's vagina in God,
Ooh.
2+ decades.
Let's see.
Oh, the
Also,
reports.
some men are prone to yeast infections too.
Yeah.
Okay, well then now I've got a whole new set of things to worry about, folks. I did
It's
not.
usually-
Oh, okay. This is
I think
it.
uncircumcised.
Okay, this is
So-
why. Okay, so coconut oil
Schmegma.
has a high pH, making it alkaline, while normal pH of a vagina is acidic. The properties can disrupt the normal pH balance of your vagina. This upset can cause yeast infections or other vaginal infections.
That makes sense because pH
Yeah.
is super important. Like
Yeah.
and I would have been trying to drink alkaline water and pH balanced water just because of it.
Yeah.
But yes, I didn't. What does it say about buttholes?
It doesn't say anything about a butthole.
I don't know what to say.
It's
Other
not
than
inclusive.
That might be a personal
Yes.
hunt. Yeah.
Here's a
Butthole.
Google. Can men get yeast infections?
yes.
Yes.
They can.
Yes.
And where would that be?
In the penis.
On the penis.
Yeah.
On the tip.
Oh, okay. That is news to. Oh, I just
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single part of me just twitched a little.
Yeah.
I feel like never mind. I need to be careful because I'm actually trying to get a little bit classier, which believe it or not is probably not very possible. But
It is possible.
but I do like to ask questions that are just on the top of my mind. And sometimes you're in a pinch and you do want to use Google for things, but you don't hit all the right articles right away, and so you have to compare notes with your friends.
Yeah.
And
And
so-
also, like, I feel like topics like this should be talked about because it's our health,
Yeah.
it's sexual
1000%.
health. And, like, for men, I know men with uncircumcised penises, like, definitely need to clean more often.
Oh,
And,
And it
for
smells.
sure.
yeah, it can.
But
And
we
you're
should
more prone to yeast infections.
That's,
and
by
stuff
the
like
way, just so you know, that comment about like it smelling is a big insecurity with a lot of men. Like
Right.
I've had plenty of uncircumcised men and circumcised men in my life. I'm circumcised, but I've been around enough men to know that, yeah, there is quite a bit of hygiene, extra hygiene that's required. I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably why circumcision even started in the first place.
Yeah,
was
maybe, yeah.
they associate, especially back in the biblical days, there was not as much opportunity to wash with soaps and things. And so, could you imagine?
Oh, gosh.
Guy comes home from war and the wife was like, I smelled you a block away.
Oh my god.
Woo! Schmegma is real, folks. Don't do it. But nowadays, people have plenty of hygiene. Like, I fully would never. I think that circumcision is one of the first traumas that a lot of men experience unnecessarily. Like, it is a surgery it is one of the most commonly practiced surgeries in America that is completely unnecessary.
And some people
It's
still do
completely
it
cosmetic.
like the old-fashioned way, right? Where they're like,
Well, if they're Jewish and they have a bris.
and they have like a rabbi will sometimes
That's-
perform it. Is that safe? I'm like,
I have been to a bris, and
Is that like
I
when
love
people
you,
are
Samantha.
there?
Like my friend, one of my best friends, Samantha. She's lovely, and she's Jewish, and her
Yeah.
husband's Christian, so they're in a mixed family. But their baby, they're treating, like they're bringing him up with both cultures, which I think is beautiful. But they had a bris. It's the only bris I've ever been to in my life, and I have never heard a cry like that.
Oh my God,
it was, Julian, my little friend, you'll be okay.
So, like,
now you're circumcised. Though.
people at these event, like it's like an event, and people go and like,
Yeah, so this is like a
gather.
full party.
It's very
that you-
culturally, like, it's
Yeah.
very powerful in the Jewish community.
Right.
Like a little boy being born, and it's 8 days, I believe, after they're born, that you basically have a little party. It's like an excuse for everyone to come see the baby, but
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a female equivalent, so there's something
Right.
weird there. But the one time that I went, and I don't want to take anything away from the cultural,
it's their
like,
culture
yeah,
and-
it's. I respect that. I wish that I wasn't circumcised. Like I've said that many times over the years. I've been with enough guys to know that I do believe there's a sensitivity difference.
Yeah.
If you think about like having a protective, like if you have a sword, soldiers, hey, and you have a sheath over your sword, every time you pull that sword out, it's like nice and clean and sharp and ready to go.
I did not think today that we were going to be talking about circumcision. Like,
You never
really
know.
did not. There was no part of me today that literally was like, okay, we need to prep for like the circumcision talk, but here we are.
Here we are.
It is so interesting
Here we
though how
are.
like it's a cultural religious thing for a lot of people, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
become so westernized where like a lot of people in our culture that don't have this religious aspect
Still
to
do
it
it?
are doing it.
Oh, it's totally
like in the
cool.
hospital, right?
Right.
Like you give birth to a boy, do you want your baby circumcised? Doesn't that happen like
Like
in the
I believe
hospital?
the way my mom's told me the story about my birth back in 1976 when Jesus was a child, was wasn't even like really like, do you want this? It was like, okay, well, now we've scheduled him for this, like it was just very automatic. I'll double check with her, but
That's very interesting.
but nowadays there's a big movement like modern parenting. They're way more informed about like the unnecessary risks involved.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's a personal choice. I don't have any judgment. If you want to get your kid circumcised, it's your family's choice. But I will say, as somebody who is very involved with his penis, yeah,
That is the funniest thing. Involved.
I'm involved. We have a
We're
narrative.
acting like it's like a PTA meeting. Like, yeah, I'm super involved in the community.
Exactly.
Like, I show up every Friday. These are my hours. This is my time.
He shows up
penis.
and he's all.
He's got a great attitude.
The sword has been bumping around the underwear for years. It's dulled on the edges. It isn't as sensitive. That's what happens. Is that your husband's Persian, right? Or your man?
Yeah,
Should we not talk about his penis on the air?
probably not.
Okay.
I don't think he'd love
This
that.
time,
but
Brian, right?
Yeah,
This time you've dodged a bullet.
Yes,
Your
no
girlfriend's
penis
taking care of
talk
you.
of him.
Got it.
I can
unless-
speak on Persians though,
Okay, there we
considering
go.
Is it? All right, Mariah.
She's
so
like, I've
is
seen a
it-
few in my day.
My guess is that Iran and Israel are like at odds, have been forever. So my guess is that Persians are not typically circumcised. Is that right?
They are.
They are.
They are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I would say it's
85
actually I feel like it's a pretty like open thing that most men do. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, not globally. Globally, it's like 15. Like, look it up. What percentage of globally? What percentage of men are circumcised? It's like 15%. It's only America.
Yeah.
and,
It really
and
is.
Israel.
I've been with
Yeah.
I don't want to say a different
Sorry, Maria.
some different
Mariah's mom is like,
cultures.
put your headphones on right now.
She knows everything though.
Oh, I
But
love
like I've been with a few different cultures
Mm-hmm.
and none of them have been circumcised.
really?
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
that's so interesting.
That's because the vast majority of because you're globally minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
no.
wait,
American guys
globally,
aren't for me.
37 to 39% of men are globally circumcised, but this was back in 2016, so I don't really know if we trust
Actually,
that one.
what's the source on that?
I couldn't even tell you.
Okay. Well,
Google.
maybe maybe it's a.
It's called the NCB. I don't know. The thing is like way too long, if we're being honest, for today's activities.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's. I wouldn't necessarily like.
Maybe it was way too long. That's why they circumcised it.
Probably. They were like, you know what? Let's just shorten this. But I don't know. I've only seen one that was not circumcised, and that was definitely an experience.
Oh, okay.
That was not.
That was not.
That was not. Yeah.
We used to. My best friend and I. You know who you are. We used to call it deet-doo. Like the little deet-doo, deet-doo, like the little sound that the foreskin makes popping back over the corona.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know the medical terms for the different parts of the penis?
No, I don't.
So
Absolutely not.
that ridge
The
that
foreskin.
creates the acorn-shaped head of the penis, that ridge is called a corona. And so
Like the beer.
like the beer
Or the virus.
or the
Pop open
virus.
a corona.
Well, the penis ridge. And so, yeah, an uncircumcised penis would have the foreskin intact, which would mean that it was basically covering and protecting the head of the penis, which keeps it more sensitive. Because if you think about it, it's sitting there in your underwear all these years and bumping up against things, and it just comes out for certain
It's out of
moments.
control.
It's very sensitive. But if it has been rubbing up against your underwear for 20 years, there's less sensitivity. And that is
Interesting.
just a fact. Like, I've been
Yeah.
with enough penises in my life to know the uncircumcised ones and the circumcised ones operate tiny bit differently. Listen, circumcision does not stop you from having a fully functioning penis that's wonderful and does all the great things. But as a connoisseur,
We have the PTA, the connoisseur.
as a connoisseur, I know
The
that,
collector.
and I say this as a circumcised man.
He has like 20
who wishes,
penises
yeah.
upstairs on a wall. He's like, these are the X's. They're no longer.
But there is hygiene issues that need to be addressed, and that's true for all people, period. But yes, there is, because of the moisture that's captured in a tight space underneath that foreskin, you want to be able to pull that back, clean it. If you've got a son that is uncircumcised, and there's lots of resources actually online for this now, including WebMD and other places that will just teach you like proper hygiene and stuff. So I don't think that, my guess is in 100 years, people won't be circumcised at all.
Yeah.
Because
Interesting.
we'll
I
continue
think
to
that.
evolve, and they'll be like, oh, this is not
I
necessary.
don't think I'd have my kids circumcised.
Oh, God, no.
I don't think I would
definitely
either.
not.
Not for me.
It's just an unnecessary. There's a trauma there, and they say that everything that happens in those first three years of life is really forming who you're going to be as a person in those fundamental years. So that huge
Yeah.
physical trauma, like, it has to matter.
It would just suck if they grew up and then wanted to be, because it's so much more painful when you're
Yeah.
older.
God, literally, that is my stepdad's
Like adult
story.
circumcisions, right?
Like,
Yeah.
he was in his 70s, I think, when he finally, like, his whole life he wanted
my
to be
God.
because of his religion and stuff, and he finally did it as an adult, and it was like
You're like
crippling
out.
pain. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like like
I've
amazing.
I've heard that
dangerous
people
surgery.
like get made fun of though. At least I remember in high school, like there was someone who was like not circumcised. And I remember there was like guys like talking about it. Like I remember
Oh.
we were like all somewhere and they're like, oh my God, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Did you
Those
see
are
yeah.
frequent arguments used in the pro circumcision debate, but the truth is now it's not. I would say that in the United States, even just as many parents are not circumcising their kids as are. So nowadays, those kids will grow up with plenty of other uncircumcised. And by the way, whether or not someone's being made fun of in a locker room, how much should that inform our medical decisions for our family?
Well, 100% not, but that's like literally my only memory of it.
Yeah.
Was like that was like my memory in high school. Like we had like I just like wasn't something that was widely talked
Yeah.
about. Like that was my one instance that I remember in high school, and then I dated a guy and I was like, whoa, interesting.
You know what's
But-
funny is we were just gonna do Mindy's Tahiti for our catch up.
I know.
And now I'm writing down for our thumbnail circumcision.
thoughts
Literally.
on
Okay,
circumcision.
thoughts on circumcision. But you know what is great is when something like circumcision can take us right into the Daily Planet. Are we ready to go with today's headlines?
Yep.
All right, here we go. The Daily Planet's up next. Okay. Hello, it's me again, JD, with the Daily Planet. This is our gay and LGBTQ plus related news stories of the day, and let's just get right into it. Did you? Everybody knows, as you can see over there on camera 2, which we'll go to in a minute, that we have our Ukraine flag hanging next to our view for Kaylee. They're going through a lot. in the Ukraine right now, and the LGBTQ plus community is particularly vulnerable. And so when I saw this story, it brought me nothing but joy to know that Europe's version of Grindr, and you know what Grindr is, don't pretend like you don't. Europe's version of Grindr, a gay dating app or hookup app, is being used, called Romeo. It's called Romeo. It's a gay dating app that's very popular in Europe, and it is being used right now, rather than to help gay folks hook up, help Ukrainian gay refugees find places to stay, homes to live in, and refuge. So there's a gay dating site, Romeo. It's helping Ukrainians find LGBTQ-friendly shelter in Europe. 10,000 users have already joined, and people all over the Ukraine are being helped by it. I feel like this is an extraordinary story of like, wow. Could you imagine if all of a sudden in the United States, we're getting on Grindr to find a place to stay, like because our life depends on it? Rather than we're just horny.
Yeah.
Right? Right, Kaylee? Kaylee's like, these are just the stories that... And you're a school teacher, right? So you're all about education. So if you are... what grade do you teach?
I teach second grade.
And how old are kids in second grade? 7?
7 and 8.
7 and 8. Okay. So this is going to be... I'm so glad we have a teacher in the house today for some of these stories. When it comes to something like Ukraine, or like how serious a topic that is, how do you approach that? Because kids always have questions.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really important to talk about. And I think if I've learned anything, this is only my second year with a full-time classroom, but something that's really intimidating as a teacher is you have all of this curriculum that you feel like you have to pack in every single day. Otherwise, like, your kids are missing out on very valuable academic
that was our
lessons.
cleansing Zen waterfall. It always happens here at GGT, just to remind us that we're the river, not the rock.
So when important things in the world are happening like this, you have to allow yourself the space to take a pause on whatever those other like set curriculums are and make space in the room to talk about these important things, because they have questions. They want to know. And like, I have kids that will just like blurt things out about it, like, oh yeah, there's a war happening, and like,
sure.
And it's important that they know the facts. So I actually work in a district that has been really, really good about like providing us resources and things like that. So
even on something as immediate as
yeah.
So just out of curiosity, what are some of the tips that they say? So when teaching a younger person about this, because you have to speak about it in a certain way.
Yeah. The resources I receive are ones that can be used from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. So obviously the way a 12th grade social studies teacher would teach this is much different than how I would as a second grade teacher. But the district will send us like slideshows or things like that have already been kind of adapted so that you can provide this information to the kids. And for me, I just take the approach of like, it's a really scary topic to bring up and could make kids nervous. So being honest about that and letting them know, like, this is something really scary that's going on in people's lives right now. And it's important that we understand what's happening and how we can help, and just be open to questions, because at the end of the day, that's how they learn. Is I could stand up there and talk at them and show them this slideshow and tell them all the things that are happening. But where their learning is really happening is when they're raising questions and raising hands and being like, well, what happens when, or is this going to happen to us? Like, those are the kind of questions that they have.
First of all, thank you. Like, I feel like saying this to every teacher out there right now. Thank you for your service, because you are woefully underappreciated and underpaid for one of the most critical jobs that exist in society. You're teaching the future, Americans that are going to be leading us through all of whatever we're going through. I genuinely feel like teachers, I was a school teacher for a couple of years, 6th grade back in early 2000s. And what my experience of teachers is they're just trying to do the best by the children. They're really trying to give them the best tools they can without being influencing their politics and doing all this stuff. So I really think that sometimes you find the kids of like the teachers that are, it's scary, but the bravest ones that are actually bringing up this stuff end up being the most evolved. Like sometimes, like I was listening to an NPR report this weekend, and this professional teachers were on talking about the right way to do it. It's just about like eliminating the bad guys, focusing on the helpers, not talking about evil in the world, not talking about things that are going to give kids nightmares, but rather talking, depending on their age group, but talking about what is, the humanity around the situation.
Yeah, talking about empathy, talking about ways that we can help, like putting ourselves in other people's shoes. That's always the approach I kind of try to take, because with little ones, I mean, they are going to get scared and they're going to feel nervous, and they're going to wonder if this is going to happen to them and what's going to happen to our world and our country. So like, exactly like you said, focusing on providing them with the facts, but then taking the route of, well, here's what we can do to help, or like, how do you think these people are feeling? And when you feel that way, what's something like that makes you feel better?
Right. So coping skills.
Yeah.
It's a lesson on coping skills. I mean, it's so important. And I'm just so grateful to the Teachers of America for doing this. And really, it's a big job. It is a big job. People come in with so many different kinds of questions. And then now, on top of all that, you have to worry that parents are going to sue you for what comes out of your mouth.
Have you had any parents come to you and be upset?
I haven't, actually, which, I mean, is nice, because like every day in February, we talked about like a different historical Black figure. Every day this month, we're talking about a different historical woman figure. We've been talking about Ukraine. Like, what we talk about important,
what's going on in the world,
like, news topics in our class. And I very easily could have parents that are outraged by it. But I also am in a district where, like I said, like, they're sending me these resources, and they're talking about how you can introduce these topics in your classroom in a good way, a non-controversial way. So I know if that were to happen, they'd have my back. But.
Right.
Usually when you're looking for the way to discuss something healthily rather than just avoiding it, you're in the right path, because they're going to find out. Like, this NPR story was all about the effect that news is having on kids. Right now, parents all over the country are just listening to the news because everyone wants to know what's going on, not realizing always that those little ears
their kids are internalizing that.
Totally absorbing it. And so it was this compelling story where they were saying they were having other people call in and say, what was the big news event happening when you were a kid? And do you remember? And like, this one woman called in and she was talking about how during the Vietnam War, she kept hearing like guerrilla warfare. And so she, at like 7 years old, had a whole plan in case guerrillas attacked their house.
Oh my God.
I know. And so they're hearing it. Your children are listening. So you really need to pay attention to what is being heard in the household. And I'm not saying to avoid it, but maybe avoid some of it if it's too intense. I mean, even us as adults should not be listening, I think, to the news 24/7 during these difficult cycles.
I feel like for us too, like Kaylee and I's age, 9/11 was this. We were like 5. So I remember hearing all this crazy stuff, but I had no idea like
what was going on,
what was really going on. And it wasn't until a few years later that I feel like they brought it up in the classroom, not at the time that it happened.
Yeah.
We might have been too young. Maybe they thought we were too young.
It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
That's when I was a school teacher when 9/11 happened.
Right.
And this really puts it in perspective. 6:30 a.m. I was literally up shaving. The first tower gets hit. I am like shaking my roommate. Wake up, something big is happening. I've got an hour till I've got to be in the classroom setting up for everybody, figuring this all out. And when I finally get to school and we decide as a school that we're going to just dedicate today to like answering as many questions as we can, keeping people peaceful. And the first question that someone asked in my classroom was, if we go on the roof, can we see the smoke from the towers? Like, if we go on the school's roof here in California, can we see the smoke? And that just puts it into perspective, like, what is going on in the brains of children.
Yeah.
Like, we take so much for granted, and really it takes putting yourself in their shoes a little bit to know what is and isn't appropriate, like that they'll tell you with their questions what they're ready for.
Yeah. And I think as a society, like, totally do kids a disservice by treating them as kids and assuming like, oh, well, they can't handle this topic, or like they're not ready to hear about this. They're hearing about it anyway. Especially now with technology. Like, your kid is on some YouTube rabbit hole and you have no idea what videos they just watched for the last 3 hours.
That's right.
They're chatting with people on Fortnite. You don't know what those people are telling them. They're on social media. Like, they're learning these things anyway. They're hearing them in the news in the background of the house. and we're doing them a disservice when we just like brush over those things and think, oh, like let kids be kids, because
if you're not getting the proper information to them, they're going to get improper information somewhere else. Oh,
and they're going to
absolutely.
make an uninformed opinion.
And feel that they don't have the safe place to ask those questions.
Right.
Exactly.
And then the fear just fosters fear, and it fosters like that. People, when you just take a moment and say, these are like say it like these are big topics that you're going to learn a lot more as an adult. But right now, what you need to know is that sometimes pushed, people do confusing things. And I mean, this NPR report was so great because they were using exact language. They were saying, don't tell your kids that there's bad guys and there's good guys, because villainizing people in that way removes the ability to understand. Like it would be very
The
easy.
humanity of it.
Exactly. Like right now, Russian soldiers that are out there fighting, I think a lot of adults have a huge amount of empathy for them.
Yeah.
Because they are being misled into a false war and dying for something that they don't even know. And then because of the nature of things in Russia, if the news here in America is to be believed, they can't even bring them home for proper ceremonial burials. They're denying that they even existed or that they died, and that they're in the Ukraine in some refrigerator truck.
And mass burial sites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're 17, 18 years old, these Russian boys. So, yeah, it's easy to say, oh, and then, if a kid hears Russia bad, oh, but Russians aren't bad.
Right.
Their leadership right now, the oligarchs and President Putin are hurting a lot of people, and I don't know why, like personally.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing too that's
To
okay to say
communicate.
to kids is you don't know.
I say that all the time.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that question. Like, I'll pull up Google on the screen and we can like do research together and figure out what we can find out. But like, just because I'm an adult doesn't mean I know
Right.
all of the answers.
That's exactly. And I think that's so honest. And I think kids really appreciate when you as an adult say, I don't know, because it gives them permission to not know.
Yeah. And
You
I
know?
love that it's like we're learning together. How you
Right.
said, like, pull up Google. It's like such a safe, comforting thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, thank you, teachers. Thank you for your service. And I think the reason we're probably talking about teachers on the heels of this gay dating app Romeo that's helping Ukrainians find places to live rather than date at this moment, is because our next story is all about this. Well, some reaction to it. Florida's Don't Say Gay bill is still making its way through the House. The governor is probably going to sign it, which is so sad. And if you're not familiar with the bill, this is being proposed in I think at least 11 state legislatures right now, but Florida is the first to make a specific law that would stop teachers from making any education or any I think they say discussion's okay, but education is not, around sexual orientation or sexual identity between the ages of kindergarten and third grade. Gender identity.
Yeah.
Which is really just code for conservatives in Florida wanting to try to pretend that gay doesn't exist. Like, to think about it. Would we have made this law for heterosexual normatives? Like,
No, because we teach those every day.
exactly. Like every single story, every children's book, mom and dad, you come in and there's all this but the truth is, gay people exist, their families exist, gay parents have children, and their story deserves to be told as well.
Like every single kid's Disney movie is about heteronormative relationships.
Yeah, you watch Sleeping Beauty and it's
Exactly.
all about the princess being saved by
And
the
then
prince
Sleeping
and
Beauty is not
the
consensual.
non-consensual kiss.
Right,
Yeah.
she was sleeping.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same with Snow White. That's not consensual, but we're teaching these girls that it's Prince Charming.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Little Mermaid, the list goes on. We've already taught those norms.
I know.
Yeah.
And
And
these
that's
aren't even
okay.
norms. These aren't even healthy things that we would teach. Like,
Yeah.
you want to teach a girl, give up your voice for a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Literally.
Literally.
A
That
man
is
that you caught a glimpse of for 2 minutes.
I mean, and then we can get into a whole Little
I
Mermaid debate.
know.
But such beloved programming that at its time seemed nothing but innocent and fair. And now through the lens of, modern education and knowing what things do to people, we can see it for the fallacy, for the problems that it has in it. And then, so we are talking our next story here. So Disney, speaking in all of these Disney products and programs, Disney's staff in Orlando, because Orlando and Disney's a huge player in Florida politics because of how powerful Disney World is and all of the money and jobs that it provides for that state economy. So they're upset. The employees, a lot of employees of Disney are upset that this law is making its way through the state legislature and will most certainly be signed by DeSantis, the governor, without Disney stepping up and saying, we do not support this. We are
With
against
them
it.
actually financially.
Exactly. And they're still,
it.
exactly, they're giving money. You can't do both. You can't say we support our LGBTQ employees. We have domestic partnership rights and privileges. We treat all people equally. But here in the state of Florida, we're still going to support a governor and a legislature that is legitimately trying to suggest that gay doesn't exist. They don't want children to know that people might be attracted to the same sex. Like, that's just a natural part of the human experience for millions of us, but it's not okay for kids to hear about, but they can hear all about, heterosexual stuff. So clearly there is a lot of upset by Disney employees in Florida. And so they are planning last week and this week, and some are still upcoming, walkouts over this matter. They call it the Parents' Rights in Education Bill, which everybody else calls the Don't Say Gay Bill, because it's the truth. It says here it was recently passed by Florida. It's not been signed into law yet, but it's coming. So Disney's and its CEO, Bob Chapek, spoke out against the bill last week in an internal staff email, but refused to publicly condemn the bill, prompting the staged walkouts from employees. So
he made some like BS Notes app apology that basically just said, I still am an ally and I made mistakes and I guess I didn't fully understand like the damage this bill would have. We will no longer be financially supporting it.
Oh, good.
But that doesn't change what you've already donated towards it.
Yeah.
There was no blatant apology to like, you're the CEO of Disney.
Right.
Like, do you know how many LGBTQIA people are particularly attracted to your company?
All of them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Like,
your cast members.
So
do you
many
know-
employees
do
or
you know-
cast members, yeah.
I know by the squeeze and the hug how many Tiggers I like how many Disney characters I've hugged that have been gay because of the photo moment. But it's unfortunate that you know what though, at least they're trying. Like, I do feel like Disney employees are stepping up to fill that gap.
Yeah.
So that they're forced to try to understand, because if you're not gay and you don't understand like the true nature of this bill, anytime there's anti-gay legislation, whether it's transphobic legislation happening in Texas, this anti-gay legislation happening in Florida and all the other states, mostly conservative red states that are bringing this up in their state legislatures, if you're not steeped in gay culture and what it means to the community, it's very easy to read something like the Parental Rights and Education Bill. I mean, doesn't that sound great? Parents should have rights about their children's education.
Well, and some of the things they put in there, the way they word them, I can understand why someone that's not fully educated would be like, oh, that could be a positive thing.
100%.
Because this
Yeah.
bill
So
specifically,
misleading.
It's all propaganda.
yeah, it talks about not training kids to believe that because they were born into a certain race or gender or sexual identity that they're inherently racist or inherently homophobic or think like that's something that's written into that, which do I want to tell a 7-year-old, hey, little white boy, you are inherently racist and these are the things that you're going to have to unlearn for the rest of your life. Like, there's a way you need to approach that conversation.
Of course.
But the way they've worded it makes it seem like it's this happy, positive, like we're sparing the children's feelings and
when it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
When they're really just targeting gay families. I mean, could you imagine if we try to pass a law that said from now on, you cannot teach kindergartners or third graders that there's mommies and daddies. You can't teach them that, anything about heteronormative relationships or love. Like, you have to not discuss that or not train that. It would be so insulting, like, to millions of people, because it's like, these are our lives. But that's also true for millions of gay people and gay families. Like, we're born this way. We get to love someone, start a family, and then to think about it too is that sometimes not all households are great safe havens for children. Sometimes school is the safest place they go.
Yeah.
very commonly school is the safe place.
And now this is an unsafe place with regards to this topic, because it can't be brought up to the point that parents can sue educators who they feel have violated this law, which is just opening up this whole sort of, vigilantism in the educational system that is going to create problems, like, because it doesn't help. This is creating more of a divide between people than bringing us together. And part of it is just this that they just, so many people willfully accept this notion that the starting point is heterosexuality. And then people become gay.
Right.
And that's why we don't have to teach that, because that's a choice.
Don't tempt them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might become gay. I'm like, no, that is not how it works.
We've been gay right from the beginning.
If you can tell me when you chose to be straight, like when you looked at the menu and were like, oh, I was so influenced by my straight people, that's why I'm attracted to women or attracted to men. No, it's in you. It's just part of your taste buds, like being left or right-handed. Do you think that learning about left-handed people is going to make a right-handed person left-handed? No. It's so stupid. But I also see it as an opportunity for us. And a show like this, like I don't want to push people away that maybe are a little bit slow on the uptake when it comes to what this really means, because I understand the influences they've had. But there's a certain point too where it's a choice. Mm-hmm. It is a choice to be prejudiced against a group of people. And that is what this law is. So I'm grateful that the Disney employees are walking out. I'm also grateful for Hollywood, because a lot of people in Hollywood, including the gorgeous actress Gabrielle Union, who I just love, she's blasting Disney for the way that they're handling the Don't Say Gay bill. Lots of words of criticism were passed between the actress and the Walt Disney Company over its decision not to take a stance against the Don't Say Gay bill. The actress, who stars alongside Zach Braff in the upcoming Disney Plus reimagining of the film Cheaper by the Dozen, voiced her dismay regarding the situation on a recent red carpet, stating, quote, someone asked her, "Are you disappointed?" She said, "I'm disappointed when my order isn't right at In-N-Out." I don't even think that word, that you could use a word like disappointed for something like this, where children's lives are literally hanging in the balance. Freaking love Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, she is amazing.
Other stars to go to social media and to use their platforms to speak out include Ariana Grande and Shawn Mendes. It's so, as far as I'm concerned, if it's like not speaking out against someone coming to school one day and saying, oh, you can no longer teach people that boys exist. Like, it's, if someone asks a question about what it means to be a boy from kindergarten to third grade, you just can't talk about it. Like, it's crazy.
I just can't believe, I can believe it, actually, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That there are the amount of laws that are trying to be passed in different states, like in Missouri right now. They're trying to make it illegal to get in a quote-unquote abortion if you have an ectopic pregnancy, which shouldn't even be called an abortion.
Yeah,
it's a life-saving procedure because a woman that has an ectopic pregnancy that doesn't get rid of the baby will die. It's like 100% chance she will die. So you're just sentencing every woman that has an ectopic pregnancy in Missouri to death.
It's sad.
Missouri, Texas, Florida, all.
Yeah, and it's all under this guise of what's good for the family, what's good for people, but it's not. It's not good for people. It's unhealthy, and it's deceitful.
Yeah.
And
it's
in
lying about the
2022, why
truth.
are we still having the conversation of what's good for people? Why do you get to decide what's good for me?
Oh,
and what's
and then
not?
especially the party that's supposedly about small government, less involvement in your personal life, are the most involved in legislating your personal life. It's so fear-based. I can see it so clearly. It's just people are afraid, and they're ignorant about what it means to be different. And it's not just gay. There's all millions of ways that people are different. And if you continue to subversively sell this narrative that there is a right way to be, and then there's a not right way to be. That's why we can't talk about that way to kindergartners to third grade, because that's not the right way to be. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
And it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's really upsetting because it feels like we're moving backwards. And I will tell you exactly why this is happening. And we can follow the lines. It is happening because of the current makeup of the Supreme Court. There are 6 conservative justices and 3 liberal justices. And this started with a president, by the way, Donald Trump, no lies, say what you want about the Electoral College, received less votes to become president than Hillary Clinton did. More people voted for Hillary Clinton to be president. So I believe very much that we need to be working on changing the Electoral College to just a popular vote for president, because we should not live in a country where you know that more people voted for the loser than the person who's now leading the country. And P.S., while they're leading the country in their 4-year term, get to replace 3 Supreme Court justices who've now made this hugely conservative. So everybody putting stuff in, appeal, it eventually goes to the Supreme Court. And if you feel like, oh, well, I can, pass all these anti-gay laws, all of these discriminatory laws, if they get appealed, they're just going to go to the Supreme Court. And look, we've got Donald Trump's appointees all there waiting to pass it, to reject it into law. I will say that a lot of those justices, especially Chief Justice John Roberts, tend to actually really be rooted in the law. Like, I haven't seen a lot of stuff come out where he sides oftentimes with the liberals, believe it or not, in certain things. There's some, like freaking Clarence Thomas, that are just like, no matter what it is, it's the hard right line. Like, I don't think the guy even thinks about what's being said. But anyway,
that's why it's like Gabrielle Union said, like, it's not disappointing. It's so much more than that.
It is the equivalent of saying we passed a law that basically is trying to acknowledge that gay people don't exist. And that if they did, it's definitely not something you want to teach to a child, because that's how bad it is. It's so wrong to know about this that it's not acceptable for a 5 or 6-year-old to know about gay love. Why in the hell not? They know about heterosexual love.
Yeah.
And then the fact that some of these kids, their parent, like, have 2 moms and they can't come to school and talk about their moms.
Yeah.
It's just
perpetuating the stigma.
And leads us right into our 4th and final story from the Rainbow Planet today. You guys know now why we call it the Rainbow Planet. Some of us love Superman. He and Lois used to work at the Daily Planet. But this is if they were gay. And who knows, maybe they were. Employees at Pixar have now stepped up to release a joint statement to the Walt Disney Company leadership, claiming that Disney executives had actively censored overtly gay affection in its feature films. The stunning allegation, made as part of a larger protest over the company's lack of public response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, did not include which Pixar films had weathered the censorship, nor which specific creative decisions were cut or altered. But in at least one case, the statement appears to have made a significant difference. According to a source close to the production, Pixar's next feature film, called Lightyear, starring Chris Evans as the putative real-life inspiration for the Toy Story character Buzz Lightyear, does feature a significant female character, Hawthorne, who's voiced over by Uzo Aduba, who you guys know from Orange is the New Black, who is in a meaningful relationship with another woman. And while the fact that this relationship was never in question at the studio, a kiss between the characters had been cut from the film. But now, in response to all of these Disney employees being upset about the Don't Say Gay bill and everyone coming down hard on Disney, CEO Bob Chapek, handling the Don't Say Gay bill, says that they will reinstate the kiss. Yeah. So for those people going to see Buzz it's just called Lightyear. Lightyear, Pixar's probably like the origin story behind, Buzz Lightyear. They will get to see 2 female characters kiss, which I don't think has ever happened in animation.
No.
Right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like, I know that everyone says that Elsa is lesbian, and that story will end up unfolding in Frozen.
I feel like she could be asexual.
Maybe even asexual, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be so bold for them to like.
Frozen in general, even though it didn't break that many barriers, it kind of did for women when it first came out. I mean, it came out in like 2012, right? It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's been
the
a
first
while.
one.
It's been a while, yeah.
I mean, having the 2 female characters, like, and then the whole like not needing a man was like very like crazy for Disney to do.
And in a way, it's like, yeah, I think that because originally that's based on the Ice Queen, which is a tale where the Elsa character would have been more evil. Rather, Pixar flipped it, which I love, and made it a sister story. And true love's kiss. And true love can be a loved one.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not the man; it's
your
your sister.
Goosebumps. See, people,
So cool.
I love Disney, and I know so many of us do. And nobody is perfect in terms of like all of their corporate decisions and everything. But it does surprise me that like if you come from the position that gay people exist, then you have to have a problem with these Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. And as a company, Disney has been on the forefront of gay rights. From way before gay marriage was legal, they had domestic partnership rights. Like, Disney's been a great company in a lot of ways for gay people. But this was just a step backwards. And I'm glad that at least on some level they're stepping up by making, by giving a on-screen kiss in the next Pixar film between two ladies. And so that's why we did a full circle on today's Rainbow Planet.
Yeah. But do you think that Disney's doing all these things, like putting the kiss back in to save their
Performative
asses?
act.
Not because they want to do it, but because there's people getting upset
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, well, we don't want to get any bad reviews or lose people going to the theater, so let's just do it for the people. Like, or are they sitting in a room thinking, we want to do the right thing, this is the right thing? Like, I can't imagine that happening.
Well, obviously, if the choice to censor it in the first place was there,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Did they make those choices about heterosexual kisses?
Yeah, there should be some kind of investigation into
Right.
as why
Yeah.
that.
And I'm not
decision was made.
blind to the fact that, for a lot of people, the gay story is still new. But we have to continue to push these companies to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And the right thing is the honest thing that there are gay people in the world, millions of them, and many of them are your customers. And we want to see our stories as well.
Yeah.
We deserve to see our stories told on the big screen, all the way from animation to, the remake of Cocoon.
Yeah, and
Which is
Disney
an old
arguably
person's
is
movie.
like probably the most influential
Sure.
company in
Yeah.
the world.
Well, and that's a great way to integrate that. Like we talked about, I think, on a show before, like how do you integrate this to children, like, specific ways. This is a great way to do that. Like, showing specific things that like maybe they haven't seen in a way that's very delicate for like young kids that you're not going to show like inappropriate stuff to. Like this would be a great way to show whether it's like maybe a character's parents or maybe they're the main story. Like, and how like this person's kind of like a come to be story, because that's a lot of like the Disney and like coming of age kind of stories.
Totally.
That could be like a great one, I think. It just depends on like how, and I think if they brought in like a lot of people from different like backgrounds, whether they're like gay or bi or whatever that is, to kind of give input, like watch it, or maybe they have focus groups that are like, hey, this was actually my story, this is how I figured it out, or maybe there was things as a child that like I wish I would have seen. Like I bet they could
Yeah.
I mean they could do a lot, and they could make a really like impactful and important statement if they do it the right way.
And I think this is going to that, like to make it clear in the new Pixar film Lightyear that there will be a same-sex kiss. Even if it was backpedaling over this, it's still happening.
Right.
And there's a lot
Right.
of good to come from that.
And the conversation I think would be good, because if it's maybe new for kids to see, this would be a great opportunity for parents to be like, hey, this is completely normal. It's natural. You are going to see this. Maybe it's a little different than what you've seen in other different Pixar or Disney things. Do you have any questions?
Right. And I think it's worth telling parents, don't be worried.
Yeah.
When it comes to sexual orientation, the die is cast. Like, I don't know what makes it spark up, like probably puberty, but it's cast. Like, it's genetic. You're not gonna make kids gay. You're just like you're not gonna make them straight. Trust me. If you could change someone's sexual orientation, the generation that I grew up in and the world that I grew up in, I would have been changed, because I tried so hard, prayed every single day to be straight. And all it does is it creates tons and tons of trauma that has to be worked through later in life. And why would you bring that upon your kids? The true bad guy, if there is one in this story, is people continuing to press this narrative that heterosexuality is what everybody is, and then other sexualities are somehow decisions that are made in life, or twisted sort of perversions of that sexual orientation. That is not the case. We have to start thinking of kids really coming out of the womb as animals, like little creatures that are to be loved. They're human. Even to think of newborns and be boys and girls and all the pink and all the blue is putting so much on them societally that it's all about you. It isn't about this child. When I see little toddlers in TikTok videos, a little boy walking up with flowers, and he gives it to the little girl when she opens the door, and then they make him kiss on the cheek, I'm disgusted. I'm like, because it's not for us to decide what that child is going to grow up to be naturally, just like, unless you're going to do it where the little boy showing up to another little boy and you want them to kiss. Like, it's not fair to the kids to assume what their sexual orientation is going to be or what their gender identity is going to be. We would do ourselves a favor, and your kids will be much healthier and much better adjusted if they grow up in a world where those expectations were not placed upon them, but rather they were allowed to be who they are naturally, and they'll let you know.
I hope that at some point in our society, it's just kids, we just assume they're fluid. We don't know who they like until they tell us. Like,
That's right.
I'm not going to assume that you're straight just because you haven't come out to me.
Right.
Because that's not the case.
Exactly. Who
We
knows?
should raise kids as being as fluid and as open and free and have as many conversations and questions as possible. And then they can come to find themselves sooner versus later in life.
It's sort of like you have to pay attention as parents too. So many parents I've heard over the years, once I came out of the closet and became a well-adjusted gay guy, a lot of my friends come to me, and I'm encourage this. Please, if you know someone who's gay in your life that can be a resource, go ask them questions. They're usually fine to talk to you about it. And I love when parents come and ask me these questions because, you know, they think, oh, I think maybe there's inklings. Like parents have this like something, you know, especially if you're having that feeling about your kid, you should really be careful about all of the gender-specific stereotyping that you're introducing them to, because it is counterproductive. It is, especially if it's taught in a way that of good versus bad. Like this is the good way to be, this is the bad way to be. Like that is really unhealthy.
The right way to be and the wrong way to be.
Exactly.
I have a story about this. I used to babysit a little kid. They were both twins. They looked very different. One was very like just fun, out there, loved to do nails, put on like girls' clothes, the whole bit, as like he was probably like maybe 3rd or 4th grade. And the other boy was into dirt bikes, completely different. And I remember I was having a conversation with the mom, like, okay, kind of just like seeing, I mean, I knew from babysitting them, like you just knew. And the way that like he talked about things and like wanted to do all the girl stuff with me. And like, I kind of just like asked, the mom pretty much brought it up, and I was like, oh, 100%. She's like, we love that. We support it. But she was telling me a story that was actually so sad. I remember this to this day. So the guy who was definitely more into like nails and just like things that like me and him would do together, he was over and hung out with a ton of girls. So he didn't have any guy friends, only girlfriends. They were all having like a girl PJ sleepover. And I think this was in like 3rd grade. And he was like, yeah, it was really sad. And he came in and he was like, I just didn't understand why I had to go home. And I was like, oh my God, my heart is breaking. And he was like, I just wanted to stay with all the girls and have a PJ night. But the dad said that because I was a boy, I had to go home. And he's like, I'm just one of the girls.
Oh my
And
God.
I was literally like, my heart is breaking. And me and the mom, after we left, she's like, yeah, she's like, it's a hard, because they hadn't been through it. So she's like, I'm trying to carefully, like delicately explain to him like why he can't do that. But then, you know, but why boys can spend the night versus girls. And they were like, I mean, they're still young, and he just had no idea. And I was like, oh my goodness, I wish I could just hug you. And now he's completely like out of the closet, like so much fun, but it took him a while. And I just loved like the way his parents went about everything. And they were very just like inclusive, loved it, supported him when he was like, I want to do, because she was like a nail tech, so he'd like go to work with her, and he's like, oh, can I try to put that on the nails? And so he would literally, the best nail painter literally ever. You'd ask him for any nail designs, he would whip them out. So literally like when I'd babysit them, I was like a free nail session.
I mean,
so cute.
I would love to have someone who's conservative on the show sometime to sort of help me understand their thinking, because I think a lot of times, like, you know, it's just misinformation. It's ignorance. That this notion that there is a very commonly accepted mistake out there that you're born a certain way and that changes happen. That you're not born like with your sexual orientation, whatever it's going to become. And so that any topic or any discussion of all this or any inclusion of it, or a Disney film showing same-sex characters, is going to somehow push that person into this life, this way of being. But it's not. Like, it's just not supported by science. It's not supported by medicine. It's not supported by millions of anecdotes. Until people wake up and say, those parades you're seeing, those pride parades and all those allies and those millions and millions of people flooding into the streets to say this and do this, and the fact that the United States currently has like 60+% in favor of gay marriage, that all that changed is because people have come to realize that it is as natural to be gay as it is to be straight. It's as natural to be a lesbian, bisexual, asexual, transgender. It's just as natural as can be. And if you're providing a negative narrative around that natural way of being, and your kid happens to be that natural way of being, you're hurting them. You are actively hurting your children, because I was one of those kids, and it wasn't woeful, but the church I grew up in definitely hurt me. It taught me that I was a sinner and that I was broken and that I had something to be sorry for when I didn't, and something to fix, which there wasn't there. But years and years and years of dealing with that baloney does a lot of damage. And so a lot of it has to be undone, and it's a painful journey to get to a place where you accept and love yourself when your whole life society has been telling you you're unlovable and unacceptable, to the point that we can't even say gay to a second grader. That's baloney. So that's today's Rainbow Planet. Heavy thoughts from JD Cargill. Thank you for listening. We are always here to support your questions. So if you do go into the chat or want to make any comments, we will definitely answer them. It is March, which is Women's History Month. And so all month long, we are doing special quotes from powerful American women from history. Here's one is no exception.
Life goes up and it goes down. I know my mom taught me that. I figured why we fool around so little, and we keep track of time, being so serious. Idiots thinking it will matter, keep me company downtown before the clock runs out. All things must pass, but I'm not gonna wake up, wake up. I'm not ready, let me have another day. Don't wake up, wake up. Keep it steady, cause I'm happy, I'm not gonna wait.
Hello, this is KCM Connect Corner with Christy, bringing you all the juicy marketing details every week live from this corner of the internet. How are we doing over there, JD?
We're doing great, Christy.
Woohoo! Okay,
Yay.
guys. So we're restructuring KCM Connect Corner a little bit, and I want to give you guys all the deets so you know what's happening, and then also what to look forward to, what you want to tune in for. So we are going to do like one episode a month. We're here every Tuesday. We're going to do one episode a month that's like a Q&A format. So you guys can send in your questions, or I'll read questions that I get, or JD or Mariah can ask. We're going to hope to do one consult a month. So today we are actually doing a ModPod consult, which I'm very excited for. And it just came like last time when we were talking about like monetization and everything. We're like, why don't we do a consult? It felt very like natural and just seemed like, okay, I have like a few clients that have wanted consults. Like, let's just do them live. So we'll do one Q&A, one consult. And then I'm thinking we're going to have 2 episodes a month that are going to be kind of like stories like we've done in the past. So we'll do a few stories, but then we'll also bring in experts for certain topics. Like we'll bring in my copywriter, Libby, who just finished up like a campaign with Makeup by Mario.
Shout out to Libby.
Shout out to Libby. So she'll be coming on. So we'll be able to either like pre-record those and be able to show you guys like our conversations via Zoom, or maybe we'll have them Zoom in live. We'll kind of see how that goes. But that's kind of like our new KCM Connect Corner plan.
I like
Love it.
I love it.
Today, like I said, we're doing a consult.
ModPod consult.
ModPod consult. So today, really like our big thing we're focusing on is monetization and setting up ModPod to be successful.
Hell yeah, we are.
Hell yeah.
Monetize it.
So
Let's monetize.
we're like, you know what? What about like we might as well just, if we're gonna have this conversation anyway, and we had like a last hour of our consultation time, let's do it live.
Right.
So we're really going to break down, this is going to be like content heavy. Obviously this is very specific for ModPod. I would most likely not give this advice to other podcasts because of the way that this is set up with multiple shows instead of one big show with individual pieces. That's not necessarily a network yet. So it is very specific. So that's why I'm saying as like an overall thing, like don't necessarily do this specifically for your podcast. This is really going to be specific for ModPod and us tailoring the experience to ModPod.
But actually, you might be surprised to find out that there's a lot of people doing what we're doing that are starting podcast studios that are actually trying to get whole networks of shows going. So I mean, there's a lot of people out there that this, where they are on their journey, this will match it.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited. Okay.
Should we tell people, by the way, that we started off, this is the prior to us starting
doing
the show together, like we started off, I was your client.
Yeah, so kind of like how I actually got involved with ModPod was through Mariah, which you can see up in the corner here. And we went to middle school together up in Oregon. And so then I don't even know how that happened. How did that happen, Mariah? I think, did you reach out to me?
I think
you invited her to a party, an Instagram party, or some kind of your birthday party, maybe. Was it a pink party?
I can't remember.
This is like so post-COVID. I got back to LA. I think I had just started working back at ModPod, like getting into the podcast world. And so we had that in common. And so then I think you reached out saying like, oh, we're doing something at KCM Connect. And then that just led to me being like social media. She knows her shit.
And then it happened to where you guys were like, hey, we want to do like ModPod and like have the Raymond House and all these things. And then I was like, okay, well, let's start with consultations and then move to social. And then the podcast got thrown in here. So it was really just like a beautiful volcano.
Exactly. An organic eruption.
Yes. Well, that's so good. Yeah.
My favorite kind.
Yeah, me too. I honestly, I don't think have we talked about that before? Maybe not.
I don't think
so. Well, happy you guys now know. You're like, who is this chicken? Why is she here?
It's our origin story.
Yeah, literally. Will be written in history books. Okay, so first things first, we've done a lot of back end for this. This is specifically going to be about monetization. This is going to be me asking JD and Mariah. You guys are both going to add in like a lot of things that I want to know on my end, but also what's going to help you guys be successful. So I'm going to riddle off some questions, take some notes here too. And something that I've set up for them, which we'll show you in a little bit, is Trello. So that's a platform that I use specifically even for like my personal collaborations as a blogger. I've kind of set up a system that I think is really effective, helps me stay organized, will help you guys stay organized and like set you up for success. We'll show you guys that in a little bit. Trello is free. For the amount of boards that we have and team members, it is not free. So I think there's like a certain number that you hit in your workspace, and it's also partnered with Asana, yada, yada, yada. Too much information. Anyway, so we will be showing you that in a little bit. First things first, I would like to know, JD and Mariah, why do you want to work with brands or companies? Like, and it can literally be just like, what's the purpose?
I guess the first purpose is for monetization, is to work to earn money, to make sure that the content that we're creating is profitable so that we can continue to create it. So, and then of course, also, ideally, it would be great to work with brands that share a similar value sort of outlook. I want to make sure that everything that even the people who are paying us to do this are all coming from sort of a similar understanding that we're fighting for LGBTQ plus representation and the representation of minorities and marginalized groups all over.
What's your end goal?
$1 million.
$15 million. I'm Anna Delvey, and I would like to. I have $60 million. I'm a German heiress. Okay, so what's the real end goal?
You mean like a total amount of money we want to make, or
No,
the
just
goal
like
for
overall for the entire show. Like, what is your dream for the show to look like? I always think it's good to think big picture, because a lot of people are like, they immediately go for monetization. They're like, I want to be making $10,000 or $5,000 a month. And I'm like, that's great. But like, if you don't have like an overall vision of how you see the company, maybe that's you guys have a studio. There's multiple production people that like Mariah is like, you know, managing, like you are and having your own set show. Like if you can kind of visualize, I think the end goal, then your monetization, you can bring back from the top and really like scale down on all the steps you need to do.
Smart. I like that. Hey, Mariah, can you turn me up in terms of what I'm my own? There we go. Thank you.
Oh.
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like how cool would it be if we were ModPod Studio Live presents Gals, Gays, and Theys, brought to you by, and there was like this big brand that was like backing our entire show.
What about like overall?
So cool.
Love that. What about like the overall vision for the show? Like, where do you want it to be? Where do you guys want to be in a year from now? Like, do you want to be?
Year? I have a vision for the show with regards to, like the growth that I hope it comes with it, and that what I'd like to do is reach a meaningful audience, so that we're really reaching the people that want to hear the message that we're sharing. Grow that, go viral. Like really, if I'm thinking
what is
about
viral to you?
Viral to me means that somewhere along the way we do something so that we have a burst of marketing, so that there's it's like right now what we're doing, in my view, is building our library of content. We are creating meaningful content right now. We have been for several weeks, since February 2nd, and we are refining what we do, trying to really wrap our heads around the shows, the various segments like we've been talking about, all with the understanding that when we do have that moment, at first we'll pay for it. You know, we'll pay for Instagram ads and whatever, marketing on TikTok, and see what we can drive there, if we can find a meaningful audience. But if not, we're really gonna, the way that shows like this, like what everything I've read says, you got to have a burst. Like you got to have that moment where, I don't know, something crazy happens in a TikTok video, or for some reason some celebrity loves something you did and they share it with everyone, and then all of a sudden you have all this attention, and as long as you have the content there, the library, then they get sucked in and they love the podcast, they love the live stream, and they become part of the family.
Okay, I'm gonna ask again, what's our end goal? What do you want? Do you want to be in a huge office? Do you want to have multiple studios in big cities? I'm talking like, we're kind of talking like content heavy. I'm talking big picture dream.
I don't know about you, Mariah, but the way I see it is having a proper studio, one here in Los Angeles, of course, because that's where we started everything.
Where in Los Angeles? Let's get real specific.
Okay. Mariah, do you have any preference on where you want the studio to be?
How big is the studio? What's the light look like? Like, I want to go nitty gritty.
Wow.
So that it's like you guys can picture this, and
Right.
this is what you guys now build for vision boards. This is what you guys look at each meeting. Like, this should be your guys' North Star. This is what you want the company to grow into. Because right now, we've got to build that for you guys to know which way you're going. Otherwise, you're on 3 different freeways.
Got it.
Right. I mean, it would be so cool to have like a studio with a lobby and a front desk.
Okay, we want lobby, front desk.
I don't know. I'm just like
I'm thinking of all the studios that I've gone to over the years, and what each of them offers or doesn't offer. Like the vision, if I was to choose one right now for the future, especially the 1 to 5 year future, would be there used to be this. I think they're gone away now, but over on Hollywood Boulevard, on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, there is a W Hotel. And in the courtyard of that W Hotel is an entirely glassed-in studio that for a while was home to Buzz TV or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're using it for now, but I could totally see us in there, seeing our like high-profile guests coming and going, people that are LGBTQ plus supporters, allies, all of our marginalized groups, like seeing like the heroes of those communities coming and going. Like Mariah said, there's a gorgeous lobby. My offices will probably be based out of the Pacific Northwest because of my future plans here. But we would then have satellite studios just like that one, like the studio that we have at the, because we're ModPod, and we're building a lakeside mountain retreat. That's our next endeavor. All of which will be media friendly, and I want to have the way I see that is very clear in my head of a floor to ceiling windows in a A-frame mid-century cabin, and within the context of the lobby there's a podcast studio glassed
This
in.
is in the Portland Northwest.
This is in the Northwest region, either Southern Washington, Northern Oregon, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. We haven't really talked a lot about this, but the next phase of my career is going to be going to move or live where I want to because so much is now available remote. Mariah and I figured out a way to do this show with studios in various places. We've got a great product that we sell other clients, which is all about video podcasting, setting up people with their own great home studios, and then getting them guests from all over the world with their own home studios, and you make the whole thing look like a TV show and also a great sounding podcast.
So for this show specifically, let's go in with just straight up this show specifically, Los Angeles. We have the lobby front desk having a proper studio in Los Angeles. What else? How many people are working there in your Los Angeles office?
Well, if I think about the full vision of the newsletter, the original content, merchandise and products and everything, I'd say 200, 250.
Okay, 200 to 250. And this is from 1 to 5. How long do you think that would take to have, okay, we've got the lobby front desk, having a proper studio. What does a proper studio specifically mean to you?
Mariah is head of production.
I feel like having multiple podcast studios, multiple like photo set studios that could be used for other things.
All of our social media content creation.
Yeah.
And again, we are servicing other clients. It's not just about our own shows.
Right. So having the multiple spaces
Right.
for a full functioning, like 5 different podcasts can be going on.
Okay, so this would be at least how many office
Like
rooms?
Studios.
Star studios.
What do you think, Mariah? Something like
Dream big here.
what does Netflix have? That's what I'm thinking of. I'm
I
thinking
know.
of
I feel
KTLA,
like I think
CNN. I'm
too
thinking of all the
small.
studios I've worked in.
10?
Okay, so this is 10 full
I
functioning.
don't know, JD, what do you think? 10?
Okay, so we have all of that.
I'm glad
Then
she's making us think like this. This is not.
I'm like, is that low?
Are you
or is
ever
that a
surprised to
lot?
find out that people don't?
100%. Most people never think big picture. They think, how am I going to pay my bills this month?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the problem, is like that scarcity mindset too
Right.
makes you make decisions differently.
Right.
Versus if you have a big picture, you guys can draw exactly which building you want. Even if it's a North Star for 6 to 12 months and then you reevaluate, that should be something you guys are collectively driving together to get this studio. You guys can talk about the freaking office decor and like what people will be in the podcast and like what kind of clients you're going to have. Like, and then all of that you should then set up. That should be the head. Then you build underneath actionable steps to get there. Otherwise, you're just thinking of this idea, which is wonderful and grand. But that's why monetization is one of the things that's going to bring you guys money. And that's why we're thinking, okay, this North Star, we want to get very specific, because right now you can't envision. Right now I can envision a lobby front desk. Have the proper studio means having at least 10 podcast studios with multiple photo sets. We said merchandise for clients and a full social media team, probably for the clients. Okay, Sam Connect will be doing it. So we can have
Yes.
in-house ModPod people. So social media full team who's available for video, audio, as well as we've got video, audio, and then probably just social.
All right, my vision is starting to tighten up because I can tell how important it is to have a clear, focused vision for the future. So this is something I've never told Mariah or anybody, really, because I don't think I've ever said it out loud before, because I don't think I realized it until you made me think this way. You know whose career I'm modeling mine after? RuPaul. Like, I want to, if you really want to know the truth about what I'd like to do with this media empire that we're building, is I'd like to have a show that is syndicated and helps people worldwide. You know, what we're doing right now is a podcast. It's nitty gritty. It's rough around the edges, but I'd like to develop it into something that is a polished, marketable, international, franchisable show. And so our studio spaces would include production facilities in New York, LA, London. And because I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest, I would like to have a campus in the Pacific Northwest a la the Google campus in Northern California, not to the scope and size, because I genuinely don't want to grow that big. Like my dream, I think even 200 might be too many. Like I feel like a good size dream for me would be having a company that I ran that was, I don't know.
There's something special about.
Oh, sorry.
I was just thinking about this too. Like, I think there are a lot of like podcast production companies that are so large that sometimes you lose your mission.
Right.
And I think there's something really special about having this big company, but kind of having it still be small in the sense of like, we're a team. We're still creating that ModPod family with everyone that comes in. So like still holding on to that.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that later. So the one thing that I'm seeing from here is like, there's way too many directions that I'm seeing that we're going. We want the studio, we want a show, we want a retreat up in the Portland Northwest. There's too many North Stars to where you can't hone in on one.
Right.
Like, and for me, like I would say we have to get really specific about like what that North Star is. And that may take you guys some time to figure out. But there has to be one, because if you're shooting from the hip, because you've not only got this show, but as well as all your other clients' shows, maybe this studio is like, we've got to really get specific about GGT as well as the client base, because really they are two different companies. And those I think they've got to be the focus. Like the one thing that I worry about is if there's too many directions, there's no way to get laser focused and hit goals for each individual thing unless you've got this huge team to where you can have somebody working on the retreat and filling up the retreat. You can have somebody working on the show. Like if we've got to get like ModPod off the ground and like ready to rock and roll, we've got to have that North Star for what kind of clients you guys want to be bringing in, that side of things, as well as, okay, what kind of shows are you already producing and how do we bring value to those clients so they stay on, they keep coming back, they refer you, as well as, okay, we're doing this live show, what's our end goal here? So those are kind of almost the three pillars that I see that have to have the most attention. And I think, a show would be a great thing that's like, hey, that's something we're going to put in the dump board of like a vision, but it's got to be a separate vision for right now.
I mean, you're saying all the right things, and it's the same tug of war that I've been having in my head as a business owner for some time now, because we are doing two things. Because even this consult, is it for ModPod or is it for GGT? Because GGT is a ModPod client.
I personally think it should be for, and when we had talked about it, it was for GGT. So really, I think like that's how we've got to hone in, and it's like we're working on monetizing the show. We're not worried about all your other shows at this point in time. Like if you're not currently offering monetization for all your other shows, and that's not already all worked out, then we've got to focus on your show, and then you can model that for other shows.
That's good, because it gives me a little focus about because some of the answers I was giving you before about the vision for the future, especially the 5-year plan, are ModPod visions.
Okay, so let's go GGT specific.
Okay, good. So there we go. That's, for those listening, GGT stands for Gals, Gays, and Days, and
it's the show you're listening to right now. This is the segment KCM Connect Corner, but it is a GGT show.
Right.
So GGT, laser focus. What is our vision? What is our end goal for doing this show? I want to talk like, is it merch? Are you guys going on tour? Is this you're doing meetups? Is this like, what does this look like? Are you having on celebrity people? Do you have dream people you want on? Are they, are you cross promoting with other shows? Like, let's get like laser focused. Does this have its own studio?
Can we talk about a model like that we are modeling after?
Yeah.
Like Andy Cohen's show, the show, What Happens?
Watch What Happens Live.
Exactly. So if we think about the place that show takes up in the spectrum of society, that's a similar kind of place I'd like this show to take up. That it's very well known, it's appreciated, it's found its audience, and it's helping people. That's a very entertaining show. Our show will be entertaining, of course, but also informative. And but I think, Mariah, you can jump in here too, but I feel like the big vision when we sat here and conceived of this show for the first time, the dream that both Mariah and I had was, could you imagine what it would feel like someday for someone to stop you at the grocery store and say, oh my gosh, that show that you did on such and such topic really mattered to me in my life.
You guys have already had that though.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe that?
I would say so recognizability would be important, as well as like I'm breaking down from like, okay, so what makes Andy Cohen's show successful? Number one, he's a badass host. Love him. Two, he's coined certain terms in that show that make it so recognizable. The drinking word. He always has somebody at the bar. He has celebrity guests that bring not only like entertainment that makes sense for a Bravo show, but also people who are going to promote it. If you guys want to model what that show is, we've got to break down things that are successful and make them GGT. Okay. As well as they have a set, a very functional set, and a live audience. So like if we're trying to model what about...
Well, we have both those things. You're on the set and our live audience is in the chat room.
Okay. So we've got set. Would you guys want a different set for your dream GGT? What would that set look like?
So Mariah, when you think about why we started the show, because so much of what we're not saying, I feel like we're missing something here, which is the social message of the show, or like we have financial dreams, we have growth dreams that have to do with the size of the company, but we also have a mission, which is to make the world a better place for marginalized people, and to provide. So when I think about how we can achieve that sort of helps me focus on what is the goal. So you're right. We would be able to achieve that better if we grow to a place where we have a live studio audience, people that can actually come and see the show in person. So we should be imagining this growing to that position, where, like an Ellen or a Watch What Happens Live with a live studio audience.
Okay, so that's a great thing to move towards. So you guys essentially want to have a different set with a live studio audience. What else about that show would you like to bring to GGT that you find successful that you could incorporate in your own way?
Like you said, that there's brandable segments. It's very much I feel like people that watch Andy Cohen's show feel like there's some connective tissue between the people that are attracted to that kind of content. It's very similar content to ours. And I like those kinds of people, like-minded people. So, and what I'm trying to create here is a destination for people that they can come to all the time and feel like they belong.
In a safe place.
Yeah.
Okay, what else about this show? Where is this set located? Is it in Los Angeles?
I think we have satellite set because I won't be in Los Angeles. So
okay.
I can come back here a lot for stuff. And I think that probably Los Angeles is a better home base for the setup, which Mariah will run. But
you would be essentially the Andy Cohen, correct?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe
Okay.
if you, like you said, the first quality of that show is that there's a killer host. I have a lot to learn, obviously, about hosting. I'm very, I acknowledge that. But I like it. But if I'm not the best person for it, and I think the message could reach more people with another host, I would consider that. I'm also a good sidekick.
One thing that they've done great with Watch What Happens Live is like branded content with other brands. Is that something that you guys would envision for the future?
For sure.
So like what type of merchandise, what type of product?
We've spoken a lot about other brands, remember, Mariah, that have already a strong presence in the LGBTQ plus community. Brands like...
We talked about Absolute.
Just start riddling them off. Okay, Absolute,
Bacardi, Tito's, Red Bull.
Glad.
Oh, that's a good organization, yeah.
I
I'm sure we could do some partnerships.
HRC.
I could see Pride
Lambda,
Parade.
Pride
I could
Parade.
say,
Oh my gosh, having a float.
I would see, like having, think big.
Yeah.
Like, I think like Pride float as well as.
Like, honestly, I would love to have like a Wells Fargo, Chase, or B of A underwrite a full GGT float. Like, brought, Gals, Gays, and
some
Days.
type of bank.
Brought to
you
you
know,
by
brought
Wells
to you
Fargo.
by, yeah, because those financial institutions are always looking to market to our community.
Like tech companies.
Tech. Where's the podcast at? Like, where are
In
you
that
being?
moment?
Yeah. Like, how many subscribers do you guys have? How,
Ooh.
like, what's in a year? What's your goal for subscribers on YouTube? Let's do that. We'll break it down per platform.
2,000.
Okay, 2,000.
That would be my goal.
At the end of what's your date for that?
February 2nd, 2023. What do you think, Mariah? I want to make sure I'm not
I know.
stepping
I'm
on
like,
your ideas.
I feel like we're going too small here. Like, we've got to think like big
Like
dreams,
10,000?
Yeah. Like, I think we throw out and then we figure out, okay, how many subscribers are you guys going to need per month? What does that promotion look like? How do you get to 10,000 by February 2023?
Okay.
And then you guys have benchmarks per month that you set.
right.
So, okay, so subscriber, we got 10,000 on YouTube. What about Apple Podcast?
What is what is it, a million that you have to have downloads to gain meaningful traction or to monetize them?
No.
No.
I mean, people monetize their first episode. I mean, it's very dependent on like your guys' following, sellability, media kits, connections.
Got it. So what is I mean, I'm also very open to learning new things here. What do you think is a meaningful podcast? Apple Podcast represents 70% of listeners. So on that one podcast, we would want after 1 year, and right now,
February 2023. We'll keep it the same.
can we do 10,000 as well?
10,000 listens or downloads.
Downloads.
Downloads, yeah.
Okay, what about Spotify? Same? Or do we want a different number?
I mean, the same number seems fine with me.
Okay, 10,000. So then those will be your guys' goals that you're going to start hitting, and we'll break those down for the goals that you need to hit monthly and your guys' monthly meetings. It should be chatted about what the set's going to look like. What's your live studio audience? What's your brandable segments going to be? What kind of things you want to start creating? Do you guys have ideas for products? Like there should be a big picture meeting,
Okay.
if not monthly, and then also to see where your stats are. It shouldn't be like, oh, we got a few more. It's like, okay, so we have to, by the end of this month, hit 500 new subscribers. If we need 500 new subscribers, what are innovative ways that we can start doing that? Is that reminding all of our hosts that they need to be posting? Is that creating different? Is that funneling into TikTok marketing? Is it funneling into, whether you've got to like put more effort into Instagram? Are you doing SEO things like to transcribe the episodes? Like there's got to be like, do you have to set benchmarks? If not, you're going to be floundering.
Right.
And then you don't know how you're measuring up as well. So I always think that big picture. So we really went from this lobby front desk moment to having a set with a live studio audience, brandable segments in Los Angeles, huge brand collaborations that you guys are working on, and having 10,000 subscribers on YouTube by February 2023, Apple Podcasts 10,000 downloads by February 2023, Spotify 10,000 downloads by February 2023.
Measurable goals.
Measurable goals. Okay, great. So I have a question for you guys. How are you able to, and one thing that we'll do off air, like that I'm not going to show with everyone, is like how to break down from those goals every single thing that you guys should be doing monthly. That's something we don't necessarily have time for. But I have a question.
Although that wouldn't be a bad other show. I mean,
Yeah, which 100%. We could do a goals episode.
Right.
That could be a great one, just on like how to measure goals, how to set them, how to set progress. How can GGT help brands? How are you guys going to provide value to these brands?
by bringing them to an audience that understands their product and really needs it. I mean, especially if the product is tied into our theme.
Okay. What is your competitive edge over other podcasts that might be similar or just podcasts in general?
I'd say one of our big advantages is the fact that we own the studio. And so we have an unlimited, like, depending on what hits and what works, we can be in here nearly 24/7. And so that's a differentiator.
What else about the podcast content that's going to be different than other podcasts that you hear?
I would say just how authentic it is, how vulnerable it is.
Also, all the different kinds of content we're putting out in one show. I mean, we go from gay news to marketing to intuition to
psychic readings.
Yeah. I don't know any shows that jump around that much.
I mean, it's like a variety show.
Yeah.
You know, it's the equivalent of, you know, I'm the, like if you're watching a David Letterman or something and they have, you know, the monologue and then they've got guest one, maybe they have an animal expert on. Although ours is, you know, pretty consistent. Like every Tuesday now we do our marketing and branding with you. Angelica will have her, intuition, and she's a medium and psychic. And so we're trying to bring people content that is all within the vein of, self-improvement, I guess, is the biggest content category. But really it's even within that you, Angelica, we all share this similar sort of heart vibe, not to be like too schmaltzy about it, but there's a desire in us to, you know, leave the world a better place than we found it, and to make sure that what we're putting out into the world is meaningful and beyond the scope of just monetization or business.
What is exactly your guys' mission statement or about statement? This would be something that you would give to brands to let them know your core and like why you're doing the show.
I have that actually. Let me pull that up. One moment. Un momentito, por favor.
We're also over 2,000 views now.
Oh, yay.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull up my show documents. I've written quite a bit about our hopes. I have GGT. I even have a file here, GGT merchandise.
Love it.
By the way, the first bit of merchandise we wanted to make is our Reseticate. You know, it's a pill.
Yeah.
It's really just gummy bears, but it's you know, it's a good gift for somebody who's like, you know, you need to really redo your life. It's like, here's the intervention in a bottle. Like if someone gives you this gift, it's Reseticate. What's the proper way to reset your life? Anyway,
It's hilarious.
let me get.
It might be more of a insult if you're gonna give that to someone. Hopefully, it's a funny thing.
No, it's meant to be funny. It's
Okay.
like there's like from the makers of Eat a Dick.
Yeah,
It's like that's a little bottle of gummy penises that you leave on the car of someone who blocked you in, or blocked your driveway.
Eat a dick.
Helping people remind them in
my
a
God.
lighthearted way that they could do better.
It's hilarious.
Let me see. Sorry, what was the answer? The original question?
Mission, and you can just kind
Got
of
it.
either like if you have it done, that's essentially like what I want us to always come back to.
Got it.
Same with the values.
All right.
What are the show values?
Created and developed by JD and Mariah, ModPod Studio Live presents Gals, Gays, and Days was conceived with a simple mission in mind: to provide a consistent, safe, and inviting space of diversity and inclusion where those who have been marginalized and their loved ones can go for information, inspiration, and entertainment.
Okay, love it. What are the show's values? Like if you had 5.
I would say authenticity,
Inclusivity.
diversity, humor, and information.
So something that's informative.
Informative, yeah.
Okay,
News
awesome.
you can use.
So do you want to pull up the Trello really quick,
fun.
Mariah? Yeah, and super fun.
So fun.
So if you pull up the Trello is like a free app, like I said. So this is actually how I set up their collaboration platform. So this, I think, is the most streamlined process to where you can hit things like, for example, information. You should set yourself up for success knowing that you, right now, ModPod doesn't have any current brand collaborations. You should set yourself up, and the way you should treat this is that you already have them. So you should be able to grab your shipping and sizing for everyone on the show if there's going to be t-shirts.
Got it.
And or if you need like shipping for product, that should be readily available. Your media kit should be in there. Your template emails for talking to brands. Your rates for actually what you're going to charge per segment versus the whole show, versus if you're doing 12 episodes, 24, pre, mid, if you're just going to incorporate it, as well as your passwords, and your links should be there. Links would be examples to like link to the website, link to Instagram, link to all of your channels that it's on. And then we've got just like kind of going through the Trello so I can explain it to you guys. We've got the values and mission. So you've got your values, your goals you want to input in there, and you guys want to set a deadline every single month, at least monthly, if not weekly, to come back to these goals. Where are you guys at with them? Are you hitting your benchmarks? Are you not? Do we need to reevaluate these? Have you already hit them? It's also really good to put something that you're going to see all the time, so it can remind you, why are you doing this? If you're not going towards your end goal, is to be 10,000 subscribers, like by the end of 2023 or February 2023, like that should be something that's the main focus of the show, as well as it will make you more money with monetization as well. And then you've got your segments. So we did a mock-up of like KCM Connect Corner. You should have all of your segments readily available. Gifting, if people have sent you product you want to shout out on the show, or your guys' social. If you are working in deals, so who is ever doing your brand collaborations, which would be you and Mariah, have a place to where you guys can interact and alert someone on these, like, hey, we've got a deal that's in progress. We've got their contract signed, as well as when you're like done with that, I always upload all my contracts, deliverables, everything in these, because it keeps it all in one place. You don't need to hunt for your email. You know exactly where you're at. Then when a brand collaboration is completed, or you're going to send over your stats, there's that. And you can literally move stuff over thing to thing to thing to thing. I put follow-up collabs. So if this is someone you had a great working relationship with, and you're like, hey, we did great with the product, I freaking loved it, it was so much fun to work with this person, I'm going to follow up with them, and you put them as well as a date timeline for when you want to follow up for the next collaboration. I do not work with lists, because there's going to be brands that you don't end up loving. You may love the product, but you absolutely hate working with the people. It is common. Or if there's things that like happened along the way, maybe there was things that like you guys didn't get paid timely, but they were awesome people. And like, you want to make notes of all of that, because really this is your business, your money. And then last is codes. So a lot of times brands are going to give you promo codes. You want to be able to grab those very instantly. So Mariah, you're not waiting 20 minutes to go hunt through emails and find out where all your promo codes are. They're right there. You can scroll, grab them, grab your link, grab what your contract says. You're ready to rock and roll. So this really, like the back end, I think is so important for monetization, setting yourself up for success. So we're now going to dive into Media Kit, because this is going to be one of the most important things that you guys need to build out for the show. So I call the Media Kit. We do the what, who, where, why, when, how. And then we've got the folder, the fact sheet, everything that we really need to have a successful media kit. So a brand wants to know, what the heck are you doing? A meaningful, descriptive sentence that describes the show. Like this should be, okay, you guys, for your mission statement, break that down into a sentence that says, we are here for this reason. I would literally put it at the top along with your guys' logo. Like that should be the first thing that they see. Like, what are you guys doing? What is this show? Next should be who. So who is involved and who is it for? So if you want to put content warnings in here, who is your podcast definitely not for? Like, I would say this is like, we definitely cuss on this show. I would put that in there. Like, hey, we do have explicit content. We are talking about sensitive matters. A brand should know that. Right. And then who's involved? So it should be pictures of everyone. They should be able to relate to people, see one another, because this is a show that's on YouTube as well as on audio platforms. Right. They want to know who the hosts are. It should be you with your name. Hey, I am the main host. We've got Mariah, who's the engineer. Everyone who is involved on the show that you physically see, they should know who they are, as well as their handles. Yeah. Okay. So what I would do is like put a picture of each of them with their social handles, as well as like their segment and how often are they coming on. Like for me, it would be once a week. And like leveraging like social followers is great. So like for, you know, Radically Loved, like how many, she has that podcast that's coming on with a major following, leverage that. She's already got a great name that you guys are able to say, hey, she's worked with XYZ sponsors. Hey, I know you're working with her for whatever. Would you guys want to come on for a Q&A on this one every month? Like leverage your people, but also know, like, for example, contractually wise, where you guys are at. Because depending on where you're at, you're essentially using all of these hosts' name and likeness during this segment. So you want to make sure that not only are you signing this on, like let's say you're signing on some birth control company. So that wouldn't work for me because I don't use birth control. I have an IUD. Like, I mean, I guess I do, but I don't take like a pill format or like for maybe it's something that not everyone on the show believes in, or maybe it's like a religious thing or a political thing. Like you want to make sure that whoever you're signing on signs off on that. Because how weird would that be if like I'm up here talking about a birth control tablet that I can't use? Exactly. Like it wouldn't be authentic to whoever you're having do the show. So you want to make sure that like not only does it fit the show morals, but each individual person. So you could put literally for me like KCM Connect, marketing, influencer, podcaster. They know a little bit about me. They have my social handle as well as my segment. And then, you know, who's involved, who is it for? Then I would write a little bit about like, who are the listeners? You know, we have them on, you know, we have them on Spotify, we have them on Apple, we have them on YouTube, and that should have their attached followings. You can hyperlink media kits to where it should be able to take them to the show. And then that's very easy. They can instantly get a taste of something like that. The next portion should be the where. You want to think about the environment. Did your show come out of a particular event? Was it a team building exercise, a workshop, Los Angeles, Virginia? Like, where is the show? So it's based in Pasadena, California. That's important because if they have an event that's coming up and we have a lot of Pasadena listeners or LA listeners and they want to bring, you know, all of us up for like a round table, like that would be very important to know like where the followers are from. Like, and how many we have. What are our demographics? Are we more leaning male? Are we more leaning female? Do we have like a certain group that we're very active in, like LGBTQ? Like that could be a great partnership for like, let's say they're having an event and they want to sell tickets, or like they're doing Pride and they want you guys to have a float, like something along those lines. Like you want to think about all of that stuff and like exactly what the audience would like as well. And you can literally, we have a live show, and this is like something that a lot of times people are like, well, what will they like? And
Let's
and
ask
like
them.
ask them, because you guys have a live show, like literally ask people for product recommendations, things that they're doing. Like that's why I think like during and organically talking about product, obviously you can have like segments that could be really funny. You guys have great production quality. So that would be something that I would really leverage, that we can go into. But you know, the where, we want to talk about the environment. And then to like what kind of equipment you have, I think would be very important, is like saying we have however many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cameras coming from all angles. This is our capability. This is our equipment. Like I would really, really hone into, we have up to 8 mics, or like something to show them like how large you could go. Your why is always very important. So like sum up the intended impact for your podcast. Why are you doing this? What makes your target audience want to listen? And then when. The when is very important. Like, when is it coming out? Do you have a launch date? If you've already launched right about the time that like you invested into this podcast, are you starting a new season? Is there a milestone coming up? Like if you guys have your 100th episode or your 10,000th hour or like something like that, these are all super important. Right. Hey, we have a huge 100th episode coming up. We're going on to hit our 10,000 subscribers. You guys want to be a part of this.
Like when Mariah promised to get a tattoo when we get, 1,000 subscribers?
You are? No way. Oh my gosh. Are you going to do it live?
Live. So
I will 10,000% be in here for that moment.
And JD's doing it too.
Oh my gosh.
So like many more subscribers.
So like something like that would be great to reach out to a tattoo studio that's LGBTQ friendly and say, hey, do you guys want to sponsor the show? We will get tattoos live. This is something our audience is already like welcome to. They know is coming. So that's like, those are great little moments that you guys can already start to like think about. The next is the how. So this is your section of the podcast that like how people, like I said, are going to listen to, your show. So I would link to the website. You could label this as, listen, subscribe. Everything should be accessible. If they have to hunt, you're already down. Like you're asking them essentially for money or product or promotion. They should not have to hunt for your stuff. You should literally give it to them on a silver plate and more, and make it so freaking easy that they have a one-stop shop for everything. And that's what I'm going to go into the folder.
Nice.
The folder. So this is, I I love this because if you want your podcast to be accessible by any journalist, blogger, influencer, you literally need the simplest tool ever to send someone. They have everything that they need. This should be a folder and they should have things like, we'll talk about like the fact sheet. They should have everything that they need. And this should be up to date, I would say at least monthly. So you can do this like in PDF, you can do HTML. It should have a copy of your podcast art, a Google Drive or zip file of like everything that they need, whether that's pictures of all of the hosts that are already done, that's media kits of all the hosts. If that's, they need a bio about me, that should be in there. They should have a one place they can grab everything they need, because if they're going to have to ask Mariah, like for each individual bio, as well as like, you're going to have to do it at some point, like set yourself up for success, all the bios, all the stats,
Right.
all the headshots. If they want a sizzle reel of like March, that should already be like ready up, you know, or like what's upcoming. All of that should be in the folder. And I mean, I've gotten them and I literally came up with this because a person had sent me their folder and I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. Like they have everything that they need. They have your logo. They have like your podcast art for each one. It just makes it so easy. You can send people to the same place every single time. Or if they need to hunt, they don't have to go through 500 emails to grab all the individual clips. They can just go to one place that's the folder. And then we can all have access to it. If I want to do promotion, if JD wants to do promotion, if a journalist wants to write a story, and it's way easier to pitch people when you've got a link to the folder, because then they know if they're interested or not. It's a quick yes or no versus asking 500 questions.
Right.
And then some people, I personally like it where you can have it as a public link. So I would never make this private personally, just because for the amount of times that like I've gotten written up about organically, it might get shared around as well. So know that anything that you're putting in there is public information. Once you make it a public folder, you want it to be like public things. Do not put anything that's like, I don't know, you wouldn't want everyone in the world to know.
You want everything to be approved, all the copyrighted, copy edited, approved.
Yeah.
Content.
And then I would bookmark this. So bookmark the folder. So it's like one of your top on here. You guys can easily access it and it can be reached easily. And then you can literally just, I mean, it just makes it really, really easy. I'd put it in your Trello too, in case you lose the bookmark, put that in there. And then the fact sheet should be in there as well. So this is a 1-page. You can use short paragraphs, columns if necessary. This should be really easy on the eyes and allow the reader to skim the topics extremely easily to find the particular data that they want, especially if you guys are trying to get written in outlets. You want certain people to come on, you're sending this to press. Like they need to find it and it needs to be on one page so that there is not just so much information that they're like, what the hell am I looking at here? I want to figure out what the, so this will help you with the who, what, where, all the things. So you want a summary of a sentence of the what with some flavor of the where. So you want a little teaspoon of the where. The intended audience, use the sentence from the who, which can include content warnings if necessary. Creators, do one sentence about the creators with a link to page with like, okay, maybe you have it on the ModPod site where there's a link to all of us and our bios. And something that's super easy for them to figure out, okay, who exactly is a part of the show, where the headshots, and then history. This is like the where. How did your podcast come about? And then why listen. This is like a 1-sentence impactful statement from the why. Like if you have reviews, this would be a great place to link reviews. And that should be on the website as well. Like what people are saying, this should be on social. If there's interesting like download numbers, like, hey, we have 50,000 downloads. We have 80,000 downloads.
Sure. Your stats.
And how urgent is the timeline? Like, do you guys have something you're working on right now that's like, do you launch soon? Are you launching? Maybe you guys like find someone who's freaking awesome. Like you guys were saying, like Rosie, and she has like her 50th episode launching with ModPod, but she's like coming in, already has a following, and this is like amazing new person that you guys want to highlight, who could easily get sponsors. Like put that in. And then the how to listen. An audio a taster is really good, like, and bend a link or like promo video. so that people can see, especially because this is like live, they can see us in studio. I would do like an overall clip that's like the sizzle reel that you talked about, and then individual clips from each host, because maybe they really attract to Rosie, or they maybe really attract to Angelica, and they're like, we'd be freaking perfect, but we don't want to do the whole show. Maybe that's too expensive, not in our budget, or it just doesn't make sense for the audience. Like they wouldn't be listening to this. And then I would do the one thing that I feel like people really mess up on is these need to be small files. These cannot be files that freaking take up like they should be easily clickable. They could be download like very quickly, because if a media kit or like a fact sheet is way too long and too big, these people can't even use them sometimes. So make sure that it's like a small version. And then downloads. You can always, if this is like, for example, you could literally put this at the bottom of your email, like a link to your Google Drive or downloadable zip file, to clearly download like the press kit or like your folder or something like that. And then essentially what I would do is save the fact sheet in your folder as a PDF, so that this is something that they can readily available when they hit your folder. Make the fact sheet into a media kit too. So you're going to use all of this stuff. A media kit is just going to be longer. That's the difference between like a one pager with all of your facts versus like a media kit that's like more in depth and looks more pretty. And really your fact sheet does not need to be like glamorous. It's factual. Like this should not be hard for them to look through and figure out the stats. Like it's just laid out beautifully. And then you can put a link to the main page of your website too that says maybe you want to put it on your website. That's like media kit or press kit. It should just be really, really easy to find. I know some podcasts actually have media kit landing pages, where it's not readily like available to the public. Like it's not something that they necessarily like promote, but when it takes you kind of like a backlink to the website, right? Where like if you have the link, you can go to it, but it's not something that's like up on there. So like, and there's a lot of podcasts that do that. There are some like solid examples. I picked 3. I didn't necessarily love any of these, but they were ones that I've seen. And they all have like a link to press or media kit. And that's really how I would tackle the fact sheet, the media kit. And then there's things that we can integrate like on, well, we'll go on that in a minute. Like I also said, including your podcast art. So there should be a few different sizes. When I talked about videos being small, that's great. You can offer to them too, hey, if you want like a high res version or something like that, we can totally send it to you. For your podcast artwork, that should be a little different. You should have multiple sizes of your podcast artwork, because some people, like some publications, do not want to use video. It doesn't work with what they're doing. They may have ads. Like it kind of just depends on the publication or like who you're sending this to or whatever. I would put a really big copy of your podcast art, and I mean like print quality, like something that's like huge. If they wanted to blow this up on TV, if you're going to be like on the Today Show, like something that could go up, that could be a really big size, that's not going to be pixelated, but you can also include like lower res versions for like social. But you want one big. And then let's see. Yeah, you can put it in as a few different like formats. I do like PNG, JPEG, and clearly name it. So when they're searching their Google folder or Google Drive, like all of your stuff should be named. It shouldn't be like, I don't know, XYZZZ4,
Right,
like
exactly.
because you didn't take the time. Like this is one.
The name of the folder should say what is in the folder.
Yeah, like ModPod, GGT artwork,
Right.
podcast artwork,
Right.
large.
Right.
Like make it so simple and streamlined for these people that it's no brainer. They should not have to work at all, especially if they're writing about you. If they're giving you money to be on the podcast, if they're giving you product, you should make it so easy that it's like stupid.
Right.
And then update. This is something that does get a little annoying, but it is, set it in your calendar to when you guys have like a quarterly meeting or a monthly meeting. I update mine every 3 months. The difference is the show is continuously changing. And like you may have, like when you're reaching out to someone, 4,000 listens looks a lot different than 8,000.
Right.
So, I mean, really in the beginning, when you guys are hitting those like monthly goals, I personally think you should update it monthly, because you could have that surge traffic to where, okay, you had 10,000, now you're at 30,000 views, and it was off of this one video that like then you could go in, add ads, you could be like, hey, this Angela like popped off, or Angelica, sorry, like popped off on this video. We really, really want to get this segment sponsored. Like you want to update that so that you're like, hey, she just hit whatever XYZ point. And then like I would put it to just like go in there and just update it, delete the old and just put in a new one. That way, people always have fresh content. And if like, let's say you weren't a fit for that person, I don't know, 6 months ago, and then they re-looked at it and they're like, oh my God, they've grown so much. They would be perfect for this segment. You'll be surprised who like keeps you in your mind for like the long term.
And you know what's crazy? It's so easy. Like this is such good advice because it's so easy to just think that, oh, these documents are just fixed. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I wrote up my one sheet. There it is. No, these are evolving, breathing, living documents that you have to think of as constantly changing. Yeah, even in the short time we've been doing this, I've had to go back and, this is different now. You know, the lengths, we do this differently. You know, you want to make sure that you're, what you're sending out, especially in an approved media kit, is accurate
and it's up to date. So then in there too, you know, once you've got this compiled, it really won't take you guys this long, but the media kit should be very pretty. And then the one sheet is very factual. It can literally be something. You also want to make sure though, like these are a PDF. This isn't like a Word document that people can edit. Also, rates should never be in this folder ever.
Okay.
This is like a public knowledge folder. If you're not comfortable people knowing your salary, do not put it in there. As well as the fact that if someone does have that rate card, I don't make a pretty rate card anymore. And I literally put at the bottom of my email every single time, this is subject to change within 30 days. Like literally put a deadline, because I think I've said this. I've had brands come back 6 months, a year later, and they're like, well, we pitched you for this rate. And I'm like, okay, well, I've grown 30,000 followers.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I'm not the same, or I use a different photographer. I use a different makeup team that maybe is cheaper or more expensive. Or you guys need me to get XYZ set up, and that's going to be an extra cost. So making sure we never put the rates in there is like huge.
Got it.
And then we can kind of, any questions? I know I went kind of spitballing facts there, kind of like
good.
I'm
to
hoping
do.
There is a copy of what you've just listed
Yes.
coming our way, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I was trying to type and keep up.
No. You're all good. Yeah, I have everything written down literally, and there's a little bit more detail on some of this stuff and examples and links and all that kind of stuff that's in our notes. So I'll send it over to you. So no worries there. Any questions so far though? Like anything that came up that you were like, hey, that didn't make sense? Anything that was like, hey, let's redo that? Or are we good, or can we?
Yeah, no, I feel like I understand.
I have a random question
Yes.
that I always think about, because I know we're talking about monetization and brand collaborations and all that, but when it comes to different social media, like Instagram has paid advertisement, like does that work very well?
We gotta be a little more specific here.
Like,
okay, so when you say Instagram,
You mean to grow an audience?
do you mean okay? So I'm thinking. Okay, this is like me thinking over here. Are you saying for GGT, you guys are thinking about running Instagram ads, and you're wondering if that's effective to grow GGT?
Yes.
So I would say it totally depends, because we've got to pick those clips that are going to resonate the most with people. We've got to build out your audiences to, like if you guys have email lists, newsletters, anything we can do lookalike audiences. There's other places like Watch What Happens Live. We can do target audiences for that. If you're wanting to do video, if it's Facebook, the copy matters. Are we trying? And then like, what's your end goal for ads? Is it subscribers? Is it likes? What's
Subscribers.
Yeah.
okay, subscribers for YouTube or for podcast, or what's?
I would say specifically YouTube at this point.
Okay, so then we would run like ads to the I've never run ads to a YouTube channel before. Before, unless it was like, I don't know, there was like something. Yeah, I actually don't think that we have. I'll ask like our Facebook ads girl. Are you wanting to run them on like TikTok, YouTube?
Yeah, that's the thing, is like,
Or are you wanting to funnel other YouTube podcast listeners to your podcast?
that would be great too.
How would we do that?
That's YouTube ads.
Oh, just do what we're doing. Oh, just Okay, so Mariah's question about Instagram ads, but apply to YouTube.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So there's
so, like-
YouTube ads that you can do. That's a ton of brands. I mean, I think that would be a very easy convert. I think kind of sending people from Instagram to a YouTube video, unless it's something that's like wild and they're already a follower or something like that, I would say you've already got them on the platform. Like, run them on YouTube. Pick something that's going to resonate and then make those lookalike audience to people who are, you know, LGBTQ activists or other podcasts that would have a lookalike audience to yours or that you want. Or like different, I would say different podcasts. Yeah, I think that would be a great way to spend money. The thing is with ads is you gotta spend money to make money. And really your guys is right now, you're buying air.
Right.
You're buying subscribers.
Yeah.
You're buying
It's called the cost of acquisition of new customers, right?
yeah. And so, I mean, too, then you've got to think, okay, so we're wanting them to subscribe. Like, our end goal for ads is like, okay, we want them to subscribe so we can get more followers. When we go there, where else do you want to funnel them? That should be in the show notes. Do you want them to sign up for the newsletter? Do you want them to buy the merchandise? Do you want them to request to become live? You know, like, think of all the places that you want this new follower to go and like what's going to make sense for them. Are you sending all of these different segments will have different audiences. My marketing segment is going to be vastly different than Angelica's.
Yeah.
And Rainbow Press is going to be vastly different than Rosie's. So, I mean, think about too, you've got to run pretty much separate ads if you're going to do them as segments or an overall show. And then making something that would make sense for an ad. So I think like that'll have to have a lot of like strategic elements. I can send you a sheet that we send to people for. They're specifically Facebook ads. But then you've also, because you're not sending them to a web page, you're sending them within the platform. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm just curious about do you spend money on advertisement before you have an audience, or do you start to build the audience, get to at least like 1,000 subscribers, then start paying for the ads? You know,
it's egg chicken. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It
I mean, there's
really
something to be
is.
said for
Yeah.
proving a concept. Like, to prove there should be enough ways to gain a meaningful audience, like sort of guerrilla style, just getting out there and pounding the pavement to see if you are like you know, we have to have measurable goals and timelines. But at some point, there should be a certain amount of followers I think we should be able to get organically to prove that our show works. Like, that
Well,
it's
and
interesting
there's,
to people.
I mean, there's things like, we can go into this like another time, but like focus groups, for example, what segments were the best performing? Why? Which ones did you resonate with? What's your age demographic? Which person are you most likely to follow on social media? Like, I mean, the dynamos should have a part in this, and those are things that you can put out in your newsletter. Those are things that should be put out on social. Like, these are people, you should be updating them like every single time something goes live. What are all the segments that came out on Tuesday? What are all the segments that came out on Friday? What are funny clips from all the hosts? Like, that should be really integrated in social as well, because then too, you're able to grow that following as a collective versus individually. So I mean, it's really a funnel. I think, could you guys 100% do ads? Yeah, but they need to have strategy.
Right.
And there needs to be measurable things, and you have to have someone in there who's well versed in YouTube ads, who knows when it's time to stop an ad and when it's time to go and to plug more money into it. I mean, really, like, Facebook advertising, YouTube advertising, there's a reason that is a job. I've seen a lot of people do it and waste a lot of money. I would say, if you're going to do it, pay for the person to do it right, or teach yourself. Like, go through classes, go on, what's that website called? Masterclass or like Skillshare. Teach yourself. Do not go in there to the platform that you know nothing about and start to funnel money in, because
Right.
it's like the stock market. If you're not well versed in the stock market and things that are happening and trends and things that have worked in the past, and you don't have research, like, I would say, like, go in, really test out. If you don't want to hire someone and you want to have it like in-house, learn a lot about it. You should know the ins and outs before you place money.
Very good advice, and I agree. Like, yeah, I've been trying to research as much as possible, starting with YouTube and branching out. But there's one thing that occurs to me is, you know, we're a small startup at this point, and there's, I think, a lot of value in thinking big picture. But right now, with the there are limits to our capacities in terms of what we can get done in a week, how much content we're creating. Do you have an order that you would suggest going in to accomplish these things?
Yeah. So first things first, I would build out your guys's, if we want to pull up Trello, this is your starting line. This is like what you guys want to focus in. You guys want to put shipping and sizing, get all of the sizing for everyone on the show, get your shipping address. You guys need to do your media kit and your one sheet. Those should be completely done, but also something that's very, it's very fluid. You may get feedback on your media kit that you're missing something or there's something too much in your fact sheet. Make these for the first little while very like editable. So don't like hire this out for $100 from a designer. Like make sure you've got like some type of document. Then next I would build out template emails, which are gonna be like exactly like we've chatted in the past, kind of we went over your email last time about what that should look like. You should have 3 different emails tailored to what your end goal is there. Maybe one is for specifically like YouTube, like there's a specific, you want to do this 50th episode, whatever that is. I would make them a little bit different and have those 3 templates and then measure at the end of the month which one you got the most responses by, yes or no.
Wait, these template emails are to whom?
To brands.
Okay, so these are 3 different. Okay, so everything we're talking about is within the context of monetization.
Yes.
Okay, so one letter might be. So with the 3 different kinds of, what were examples from each that you would recommend?
I would decide to, like, you guys have got to write down, like you wrote down some of your dream brands. Well, a lot of them were alcohol focused. So then figure out with that alcohol, I would pick like, okay, you want to reach out to Absolute, you want to do Casamigos, you want to do whatever. So one is going to be essentially from you guys very alcohol brand focused and how you plan on doing this. So I would send your first email as like a hello. This is what we do. How can I help you? What are your guys' launches right now? How can like the show help facilitate this? This is our audience. Here's a little bit of our media kit. This isn't about us. Are you guys interested in hopping on a phone call? Does this seem like this would resonate? Okay, if they're like, hey, and I would say what you want in there. How do you want to help them? But also what do you want? So like at the end, they shouldn't be like, why the hell are you emailing us? Like it should be like, hey,
this is what we do.
This is
how can we help you with what we do?
Exactly. And say like,
this is what we want.
We're wanting to bring on brand partnerships. So I would put like podcast partnership, Q3 or something like that as the subject. And then like, I would keep that pretty editable. Because you'll get like, you're going to need to change out, hey, Absolute, hey, Patron, hey, Casamigos, whatever, or hey, Sadie from, I would DM the brand on Instagram, get the best email or go on their website, take that email, and then you want to upload like you can put in there too, like your guys' media kit or like a link to the show or like your link should be in there too if they want to quickly check you guys out. I would also put in like a calendar. So if they want to readily available, like book a call with you, they shouldn't need to email and be like, hey, when's best? They should be able to book with you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. and know that that works with your schedule as well as theirs.
In the tools that you're giving us, will there be like template email 1? This is what it should say. Or do I? Because
you guys will create those.
No, not the actual templates, but what they like. So right now you said that, we get our shipping and our sizes. Understood. Media kit and fact sheet, understood. And now write 3 template emails, each focusing on a different kind of potential brand sponsor. The first one might be to alcohol brands. How is that different than what we would send to someone from like an LGBTQ plus organization?
Because you're going to tailor it differently. An alcohol brand, how you're going to talk to an alcohol brand is going to be definitely very different of how you're going to send an emotional email to the LGBTQ community that you want. That's going to be more like your story and how it's very strategic. Brand partnerships, especially reaching out, are very strategic. You want to make these so that they are tailored. You want to see what's working best here. And there's ways to do this. You can do 3 emails. that are similar, and like maybe one is longer, one has middle content, and one has short, and see which one resonates. Or you can tailor them. For you guys, I would tailor them. You want to work with alcohol brands. You already know that. Make an email that fits to alcohol brands, whether it's seltzers, whether it's rosé. It's something that could be essentially changeable for the alcohol brands. Then next, maybe you want to work with organizations. I would make an organizational email. That would make sense. Like, why would working with an organization matter for this podcast? Who is that bringing value to? How can you help them? Hey, I know April 23rd is a super important day for this organization. We do not only love to have like the founder on the podcast, but we'd love for you guys to have a segment on, you know, whatever, or like show off your guys' latest product, or us to do a giveaway, or whatever your goal is working with that company. And then the third could be a more blanket email to where it could kind of be a plug and play. Really, I would approach it as a direct message on Instagram, and then an email. If you don't hear anything via direct message, email. I normally email 2 to 3 times before I cancel it. And I say this is like a no-go. You can build those out in like an Excel spreadsheet of like follow-ups, and like who you've contacted, what they've said, and keep this. I mean, I do it in an Excel spreadsheet, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like if people and write notes, like have a category for notes. This person said not interested until next quarter. This person said, oh my gosh, we love you guys. We don't have a budget at this time. Then you're like, okay, will you? Then, I mean, a great question that not a lot of people ask for monetization is, when will you have a budget?
Right.
When? And they're like, if they say never, then you're like, great, this is one that I will never follow up with again. If it's a question that you say, okay, you actually don't till Q3, and you wouldn't have known that without asking. If a brand says to, hey, we don't want to work with you for XYZ reasons, write that down as well.
Sure.
If you're realizing like all, 55 brands are all saying they don't want to work with you for XYZ reasons, that's a great thing to consider. Is that a moral value you guys need to change? Or is that a show tweak that you can make? Or is that just something that really isn't important, that you're like, you're not seeing the big picture here?
Got it.
So those template emails, that's how I would tailor them.
So just to recap, because I want to make sure it's clear for people who are listening right now. In our efforts to monetize GGT, you're giving us great advice, which includes putting together a media kit. Like, you're giving us the tools that we're going to need to reach out to brands for monetization.
Exactly.
And I can kind of relate, because I'd done one as a trial, and they wrote back like, oh, now's, we're not doing things like this right now. And you're saying it literally, oh, you're not right now. Well, is there a plan for the future when you might be?
Well, when do you guys do your budget allocation? Do you guys have a project that's launching soon? Like, really dive into like that. Or is there someone who handles your partnerships? Is this the wrong avenue that I'm reaching out? Can you forward me to them? So, having the Calendly link for them to be able to book a call with you, hop on a 15-minute call, and you to be able to pitch them.
Got it.
And I would just make that very streamlined. Like Calendly is a free service for, I think it's over like one call or one kind of type of call that you can book. Then you have to pay for. Can we pull that back up? So those would be how I would handle those template emails. Then rates. This is going to be like, it's, let me look up the actual like acronym. So cost per podcast view, CPM. So the average cost of podcast advertising is about CPM of about 25. Advercast notes that an average CPM for 30-second ads is $18. The average cost per CPM is 60 seconds is $25. That just depends on how many like listeners you have.
Right.
So the CPM is cost per essentially cost per listener of 1,000 listeners. So like that's going to be your cost for 1,000 listeners. Knowing that too, people do, like if you're a video podcast, you can get more, because it is a video platform where they're actually able to see the product. Like leveraging that would be huge. You could definitely charge more for that. Depending on to like your subscribers at that time, all of that'll matter in factoring for cost.
So I'm going to just hit pause for a second, because we're in the rates section. So this is us as a company deciding what our rates are going to be for monetizing our, where would we go? So that's that's a whole show.
That's a whole show. So that would be like us. I mean, there's baseline rates. You can literally Google this. What I would do, especially for you guys have no stats right now. Absolutely none on working with brands. I would start, this would be a great way for you guys to start working with brands would be number one. Start talking about brands organically and sending them clips of in the podcast. Being like, hey, we organically talked about your product. I want you to let you guys know we absolutely love it for XYZ reasons. Let us know if you'd like to collaborate.
Is that how you
season
started
2.
with your other podcast, The Bottle Blonde?
Yeah. So that would be, and it was very organic. We'd also reach out to people. It's very streamlined for me because as an influencer, people come to me wanting to push product or whatever kind of service they're wanting. And I'll add in my podcast.
Right.
And say, hey, if you guys are looking to get into podcast marketing or advertising, I do have rates for that. And I'll send them over. Hey, for however many episodes, for post, mid, roll, like whatever kind of ad, we'll throw that in there. And I'll put in like cost for like 6 episodes, 12 episodes. That's how I structure mine, is like the silver and the gold package.
So you're saying that for...
Or I think I call them boozy and drunk.
For boozy and drunk. I love that. Your brand of that podcast. What is the... so you said we could Google how... Because I don't know that... knowing how much to charge would be kind of a challenge for me at this point.
So what I would do, like, and we can kind of probably talk about that off camera, sorry guys. But like how much I would charge, especially for like your guys' production rates and the production of the show. So like that I would tailor differently because it's not a podcast that you're recording in your closet. This is something that's live. You can physically see product. You're not only on one platform, you're on multiple. You have multiple like show hosts you can leverage. Your guys' rates will also entail if the hosts are available for cross promotion. Like if I'm available, if there's a brand that comes on and says, hey, I really want to work with Christina, I would say, hey, these are my rates. So you guys know for an Instagram story, for an Instagram post, to be funneled not only on that episode, but also through my social.
We should get that actually.
Yeah.
Because for all of you, since we want to promote your, that's good. That's good for everybody.
So then everybody knows exactly too. Then you guys are not only funneling to us, but then we can also help the brand more. So if they say, hey, the podcast isn't big enough right now, but you know what? We want to be featured on, Christina's Instagram as well as an Instagram story. And we also want to be on the podcast. Like, what is that for an all-inclusive package?
Here's what that rate looks like.
Yeah. So I would do that for rates. And then you'll have the overall show rate, the individual segment rate, if they want an actual ad versus maybe the host wants to come or the founder wants to come on. Or maybe they want to do something fun and we create a fun little segment for them. Like there's a lot of opportunity with rates, but really you've got to do the media kit. You've got to do your sizzle reels. You've got to do kind of a dream list of brands. That would be like the next thing that I think is up there is like creating a dream list of everybody you want to work with. It's like too small for me to even see. Let's see, template, and then you've got your rates. Oh yeah, brands you want to work with. So dream brands. You and Mariah will sit down and do like 50 dream brands you want to work with. And that's really good. Again, visualization. What brands you want to work with, why you want to work with them. So like that would be something that you guys could do at like a monthly meeting or like sit down and say, who are the brands we want to work with? Why do we want to work with them? What would be cool ideas for these? Okay. And literally put them down like absolute. It would be super cool for like us to make like all different cocktails of the rainbow and like different things. And we could do like a little fun cocktail episode. You could have a local bartender come in or like some kind of famous bartender who could promote, who could make the drinks, or it could be like all of us doing a blind taste test. Or maybe we have like Absolute is launching like a new Pride cocktail and we can like run the ad for that on here, as well as we can all be wearing like Absolute t-shirts or tank tops, or we're doing a giveaway for product. There's so many options, which is great. Like you guys are really unlimited where you are, but you've got to start somewhere.
Right.
So creating those dream brands, I would reach out to them, and then you guys need to pick 3 to 5 that'll probably come back to you that say, hey, right now there's not enough audience. Would you guys be open to doing a gifting? Be great, because right now you guys need products to talk about, to run essentially ads for, so that you guys can show exactly to other brands who are going to pay what this would look like. What is this? And you shouldn't treat it as just like a gifted product, or like it should be like, holy shit, this is the product. This is exactly how you would do if you were getting paid $50 or $10,000. You want to really show the experience. You guys have got really cool production quality. Maybe the product is spinning, or it's on the back, background, or it's like lining all back here. Like, get super creative, because then in the future, with all the gifted products you get, you can show, hey, this is what we're able to do for sponsorships.
Got it.
And you really, because this is new, this is a very like new production, this is a new thing that's happening, you guys are so available to do so many cool different things. And that is an added benefit. Ask the brand, is there something that you've always wanted to try but no one's been available or open to?
Okay.
And they're like, what do you mean? And you're like, what's your dream? What's your dream on a podcast? How would you want this product to be promoted? Has there been anything that you've seen that like you've just been dying to do and no one's been able to? Is there something that's on your guys' kind of dump list that you think would be so cool? How can we facilitate that for you?
I love that.
Hey, and also, is there someone at your company, you create a great relationship with them, and then you say, you know what, is there somebody at your company that would love to start a podcast? Send them over to us. I mean, you can really funnel this here. Or maybe like the owner of a product freaking loves you guys and wants to create their podcast here, and they want to do virtual, and you can really like massage those people and come back. I mean, there's people that I work with yearly. You say, hey, this was so successful. Really following up with people and staying active on their pages. So you guys want to work with Absolute, you should be commenting on every single Absolute image. You should be on all the Absolute hashtags. You should be liking, DMing. Like, you should be really integrated. You should do an Absolute segment. Send that to them and say, hey, it'd be really cool. Every Friday, we want to do this. Are you guys open to this? Would you guys be able to send over product? Would you guys be able to do a collaboration? We're really trying to like lock in our partnerships for spring 2022.
Yes, that's actually what we were working on right now.
Exactly.
We have a few spots left. We were hoping that we could squeeze a small startup like Wells Fargo in.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be really hard. We don't have that much time, but like we can talk to somebody.
Who's the lady that does Spanx? I want to do shapewear for drag queens.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Yes,
I love her.
I do too.
I can't remember her name right now though. I'm like blanking. But that would be, so those are kind of your guys' next situations. And then also there are tons of websites that you then want to follow up. Why I put passwords and like account info is because there are a ton of websites that you guys can apply to, put your podcast essentially a listing, and have people, you can apply to collaborations as well as brands can apply to work with you. And you put things like rates, media kit, stats. So you need all of that before you apply to these platforms.
Got it.
And those you can literally Google, like type in podcast platform collaborations. Let's see. Yeah, there's so many. There's literally like so many that you can like hop on here, and that could even be, you guys could put that up here for people who want to come on as guests. And like, depends on, there's some podcasts that charge for guests to come on. And that's like a great way. Maybe they want to share their story and you're like, hey, right now we'll definitely squeeze you in. Like, this is a cost, or you guys can just have them on for free. Maybe they want to talk about, do a segment on their product, and that's a charge. You guys can really like be creative about this. The podcast industry is so like ever changing and growing. You can really create your own model here. Maybe you only want to integrate product into talking. Maybe you only want to, have pre-roll, mid-roll. Like, maybe those are your only ads. There's really like open for play here. So those would kind of be my steps right now. I would have you guys, can we pull up Trello? Sorry, Mariah. I wish I had it on my laptop, so I would just like do it. But then you can work into, now you and Mariah can work really seamlessly and on creating the segments. So getting all the information that you need from all of the hosts, all of their own media kit stuff, what they charge about the segments, creating media kits for each individual segment. Then once all of that is done, you've done all the back end to be successful. You might have to switch things up, but once that's all filled out, then you can start pitching. You can start pitching on the platforms. You guys can take 2 hours at the same time and see how many emails you can get to. And that's how I would do, probably make a separate email for collaborations. And then you both have like login to, or that's one person's job or an intern's job or something like that, that they start sending out pitches, and then you guys can follow up come all together. Who said yes, who said no, why, and that should all be in an Excel spreadsheet. Make it super simple. And then when something's coming, that person's going to put in the gifting tab, hey, L'Oreal is sending this hair product. We agreed on these terms. This is our contract sign. This is our deadline. This is our due date. Here are talking points. Here's promo code, everything you need. And then you guys can start moving along. And then you guys have to decide like too, how you want to take payment. Do you guys want to do you want to do half down on things? I personally do payment all ahead of time for podcasting. But some brands are different. I've had people say absolutely not. They want it when it's like done product. So figure out like the rates, the packages, figure out how you want to be paid. Is it by check? Is it by PayPal? Do you guys have a PayPal set up for the business? Is that integrated with your bank? If not, got to set that up. So like,
a thought just occurred to me. What if because a lot of the stuff you're telling us is great advice, but it's also brand new information. This is not a field that I'm selling or getting sponsorships for the content is not something I have a lot of experience in, but I'm excited to learn about it. These are great tools to set up in order to set yourself up for success. Would another way be to like reach out to podcasts that are kind of killing it in our space? And would you ever like advertise another podcast on your podcast? Like, you know what I'm saying?
You can 100% do that. I mean, that's same with like when we're talking about YouTube ads, you're essentially funneling to an audience that's already there. You can do that. You still have to do all of this up front.
Right.
I mean, you can do that. They're just going to say, okay, here's our rate. Depending on how big they are, you could be paying anywhere from 10 to 15,000 for an ad.
And the purpose of doing this would be to find out what our contemporaries are charging. Like, I'm not saying that, I mean, we could do that. We'd actually go forward with them. But I'm curious to see, like for example, if I didn't know you and I just came to KCM Connect to get, I love Bottled Blonde. I want to be on our show. We have a great show. It's got a lot of, we think there's a lot of crossover. Would you please provide us with all the stuff that you're telling us to create right now? I could do that with how did you, in other words, in the beginning, like if you think back to when you started, you didn't know all of this stuff. It was something that was formed over time, and it's great information, but it is, when we're brand new to it and I don't know like what people are charging. I mean, I can Google, get baseline rates, but really, if you really want to know what people will pay for something that like what you've got, you kind of have to find some other people that are charging.
You've also got to realize too, they're going to blow smoke. Like, I mean, they're going to tell you as a podcast, they're going to be like, we don't really, depending on who you are, they're not going to give you their real rate. They're not going to give you their real stats. Because if you're another right there, if a podcast reached out to me to sponsor my podcast, I'd say absolutely not. Because I'm not going to that to me they're going to sniff it out. I mean, I would instantly know that like someone's there to figure out what my rate is. What I think would be better is if you say, hey, I really aspire to be like this podcast. Can I buy an hour of your consultation time? And I want to know exactly what's been successful for your podcast audience.
I don't mind that.
Audience.
I'm growing my audience.
Yeah, I'm trying to grow my audience. And I am very, very anti, can I grab you a cup of coffee? I think it's so disrespectful on so many levels. Oh, okay. But I would say, hey, like you've grown XYZ, you've got sponsorships. I'm looking to get sponsorships. What were your ways to do so? They're literally going to tell you probably exactly what I just did. Right. They may have a few websites that they like for charging too. I mean, I always ask a brand, what's your budget? Not what's my rate, what's your budget? Like, have you seen that little thing where it's like two guns back to back and it's like budget rate?
And I hate when people do that to me as a business owner. I'm like, I don't want you to know my budget. I want to know what your rate is because my budget's none of your business.
Yeah. So I would say like, okay, what's your budget for like a project like this? What's your guys' like capacity right now? And they would be like, oh, well, what's your standard? And you got to always go above. So when someone's going to send you, they're not sending you their baseline. They're sending you their negotiating price. Right. It's very different. But I know I want to hit this price point. This isn't the end price point that I won't do anything underneath. But I'm going to tell you twice that so that we have room to negotiate here. And that's like, I mean, really, I wouldn't trust any other podcast that's going to just like give you their rates. I would say if you want to pay for like a huge podcasters, or even use your network, like use your podcasts that have gotten sponsorships and like, okay, what are they charging? What's a baseline price for that? What's, and really, I mean, then you guys can tailor like, hey, oh, well, we do way better production quality. We should be charging more.
Right.
Like, or you know what? We don't quite have the audience. I mean, rates is something, there's literal websites for rates.
Sure. It's like a whole probably like, you know, series of factors that you plug into an equation, and it's like, how many viewers do you have? What is your reach? Where are your,
Exactly. So it would really, I mean, there's total websites. You can go Google this stuff. And that's literally what I did for starting out.
I can Google anything, Christy.
I know you can. You can Google whatever you want, whenever you want. So that would be really my setup plan for you guys to start monetizing. And that's once you've got all of this completed, you've got your system in place. It's rinse, repeat, change what's not working, rinse, repeat. Monetization is not something that's going to come. It may come really easy. You may get people who sign on right at the start. You may need to, I would say you'd most likely need to do some gifted things or like just product, get things under your base. You guys also need to learn how to monetize, like learn how to talk about product organically, learn how to use it, show your voice. How are you going to be different than the other podcasters that they work with? What's your edge? Are you going to bring every single project to like with an LGBTQ twist? Is there always going to be something there? Is it something that's going to be from your like reporter past? Or is there something you've got to figure out what your edge is there for monetization? And then just start.
Yeah.
And so once you've got that done, start reaching out to brands, see feedback. If you guys have questions, obviously I'm always here.
Yay.
But I would say that would be your guys' baseline. That's your starting line. That's where you've got to take the leap. You've got to start, and you've got to build up all the assets that they're already going to ask for, so you don't have crunch time.
I mean, and that's really what the theme, I think, today's lesson was on monetization. How to monetize your podcast, your show, your live stream, whatever. And yeah, there's a lot of good details in there that we could go back and transcribe this episode and have like a full like book. But for me, the real takeaway was what you need to do to monetize your content is to create the arsenal of tools, your monetization weapons that you need
to get set.
To get set, and then you've just got to try.
Yeah.
And like you totally are right. Like, and then sometimes it's as easy as going to some company who you really believe in, their website, finding out, info at them,
100%,
getting your foot in the door. Who's the person there who makes choices about how you guys are seen and advertised around? I think maybe there's some place for collaboration. We'd love to collaborate. How can we help you with what we are? Who are we? You're telling us, get all these tools lined up so that you are now set to go and just start.
Because I've seen so many people start without all these tools, without the folder, without the segments, without all of this stuff. You're going to need it anyway.
And then you're just
prepared to win. You've got to prepare to win, and you've got to prepare to get the money. Like, if you like right now, setting up how you're going to take payment, what is your contract going to look like?
Yeah.
Like, so when that all happens, once you're done with this, like then I would send you to a place that like create contract, or like quickly go to a lawyer and have them review this, say this is going to be like our collaboration contract. Make sure, you got to kind of do all those things before you go and you get it rocking.
Yeah. But again, I know you said that you would see right through it. I don't think I was being legit. Like if I want Gals, Gays, and Days, there's going to be some podcasts out there that have, like H3, right? That's a big podcast, right, Mariah?
Yeah.
We legitimately want to be seen by their audience. And so if they're open to it, I'd love to have us, partner with them. And then in the process of doing that, I would learn a lot about how it's done from their perspective.
And how they resonate,
but legitimately pay them and like do what they do, because then like what you're saying is because then I would see what their contract looks like. I would see how they take payment. I'm just saying, like, without trying to trial and error it. If I went as a customer to somebody, because that's what I'm trying to get is customers for us, sponsors, but that's a kind of customer, I need to know how it's done. And
it's also going to look very different. It's like how everybody makes mac and cheese. Do you put in the cheese first? Do you put in this? How do you boil? You could reach out to 19 different podcasts. They're all going to do it differently. And they're all going to probably have different rates. They're all going to approach things differently. Do they have a manager? Do they not have a manager? Do they have someone who has stake in the podcast? Do they have to charge more for this because they just bought new equipment? There are so many other factors that you really will not know. And that's unless you're on the inside of the podcast. Are they with a network? If they're with a network, they're definitely going to be charging more because they could not only pitch you for one show, but 5 shows.
But I think
you can.
There's information in that variety of responses, there's also really valuable information.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think 100%, if you want to reach out. If you want to just head straight to the point, I ask people all the time, I'm like, what's your hourly rate?
Right.
And the amount of times people have said, oh my gosh, you can just get me coffee. Like, don't even worry about it. Or they're like, hey, this is my hourly rate. And I'm like, amazing. I respect that. When can we book?
Yeah. And listen, I'm not trying to get free information. I would be paying for the product. Like, I want GGT. If I'm reaching out to a place that I happen to be curious what their process is, but I'm there as a client trying to get the show some sponsorship, or in this case, we would be paying them to plug us.
And they're going to still want the media kit from you guys.
Yes, of course.
So they're going to want to know about you guys. What is your product? How are you offering
I'm more thinking about rates. Like, I know how to do the media kit. For me, a lot of the stuff that we've gone through, I can, hammer through. It's just those rates because of, who we are, the space we take up in media, our resources, our access to our network. There's a way, I think, to package. And you're right. Every single show is going to be a little different because what they're offering is a little bit different.
And maybe they have higher production quality or lower production quality, or they have a celebrity guest on that day, or they're traveling, or it's going to be very, very different per show. It's like this is a great example, going to Nordstrom and wanting a white t-shirt.
Right.
You're wanting a white t-shirt, but you're going to see 55 different white t-shirts. Some are going to be V-neck, some are going to be cotton, some are going to be Spanx. Like, they're going to be all these different t-shirts, and their price point is going to be different, and their fabric content and who makes them and where they're imported.
Right.
So,
but in doing that, if I happen to be making white t-shirts, it would tell me. Yeah. And I know everyone's process is different. I'm just saying this for people if you happen to be like me. Exactly.
It is market research.
Certainly along the way with your, you've been doing this for years, but you probably had a lot of trial and error, a lot of companies that you were working with, and you probably learned quite a bit from places where you were advertising your show.
100%. Yeah.
And so I think.
So I mean, I would reach out.
Turn over all the leaves.
Exactly. Yeah. So and I think that if you guys want to handle it that way, prepare to win. Do all of this stuff ahead of time. Start doing your market research. Reach out. Go in podcast Facebook groups. And say, hey, what is everyone charging? What are your guys'? And some people will be open. Ask some people in there, hey, I'm starting to charge for my podcast. I'm a little bit wary. What do you guys offer with your podcast packages? I'm in a podcast group that's like 50 or 60,000 people. People ask that stuff all the time. Hey guys, I just got a good a brand new yada yada. How do you guys work this? And someone's like, hey, let me hop on the phone with you. I'll just walk you through it.
Got it.
There are very collaborative spaces for that. So I would reach out, do your market research, even ask for feedback on your media kit. You can throw that up in a Facebook group and say, hey, does anyone have feedback on this? Do you guys feel like anything is missing? Anything's unclear?
Wow, so smart.
And people are willing to give info.
Right.
So, those would kind of be how I would set you guys up for success is really, you've got your back end built out. You've got to do the Excel spreadsheet. You've got to do your templates. You've got to do all of that. Get in the Facebook groups. Get some rate ideas, create some packages that make sense for the podcast. What are you guys willing and available and able to do?
Right. And
create packages.
And hey, probably doesn't hurt to listen to a few podcasts and see how they're doing it.
Exactly.
How are they incorporating their ads? What kinds of, because there is an art to that, by the way. The
100%.
way that you do it so seamlessly. And I've seen sometimes it's like, oh, well, they're really hustling to try to figure out a way to stick this ad in.
But so you've got to get creative. Yeah. So kind of doing your market research, and seeing, okay, too, how does if XYZ has budget and they're on this ad, how much are they willing to give? Maybe it's a lot less to the podcast based on listenership, but that's a starting place.
Right.
And two, all right, maybe a brand will come back and say, what are you guys willing to do for $200? And then you guys have got to figure that out on your end.
Yeah, and it will be good. It will be great if at that point we'd already thought about that, anticipated that question.
And people say, hey, for our package right now, we'd have to cut these 3 things off our package. Is that doable?
Got it.
So that's kind of how I would prep. Any other questions that you guys have before we wrap up?
So powerful. Such good information, Christy.
Thank you. We attempt every once in a while. Any questions you have, Mariah? I hope it was useful too, and you guys kind of got a good baseline to really start, because I think these are all your guys' things that you really need to get it rocking.
Right. Now that I know you and have been working with you for a while, and I'm used to your because it's incredible how much information you have in your brain and how quick you are to recall it all. As you really go through a lot. it's perfect that we're recording all this now because I feel like I can get this transcribed. I'm like, oh, this is what she said. You know, it was a lot of information, but it's all there. And that's why I try to sum up the big themes. Like the big takeaway for me, first of all, you got to work. You cannot just expect it to happen. I don't know if we said that earlier today or not, but it was like that stuck with me all day. Like you just need to schedule out when you're going to do your media kit.
Yeah, and to schedule out 2 hours on each Sunday to send out, like I do that, and time block it.
Right.
2 hours, you set your timer. How many emails can we find? How many emails can we send? How many, podcast pitches did we pull out? Did we get anything back? What's our response rate?
Right.
Like, and that should be very like, hey, we got 10 responses. Like, that's great. Okay, what did they say? Was that a yes? Was that a no? Was the no, then you got to know why.
Right. And this for us was so perfectly timed. I don't know about you, Mariah, but where we are in our process, because I really, it's like a chef who wants to sell you sandwich. And there's different ways to make that sandwich. And I really wanted to be confident in the sandwich I was making before I went out and tried to hardcore sell the sandwich.
100%. And yeah, you've got to like really solidify your guys' end goal. Like I thought that was probably one of the most, I think, impactful things is like, the fact that like we solidified your guys' end goal, what you want the GGT to be, because at the end of the day, money is great, but if you guys don't have an end goal on like expansion,
you're so right,
and where you're leveling up and where you're going to, like that'll be like a different conversation where we say, all right, set, live studio, all of that. What kind of money do you guys need to be making monetization wise as well as host wise to be there? Okay, you guys want to get this place in Los Angeles. This was what rent would cost. This is what lighting would cost. This is what, Mariah full-time with an assistant would cost. When you break that all down, you're like, whoa, okay, that's $10,000 a month that we need to be like for GGT. We need XYZ in monetization. This is our goal. Now you guys have goals to hit because you want that live studio. You want that audience. This is how we build up. And these are like realistic steps to do that.
I am nodding my head back and forth.
Like,
yes.
Everyone's like, I see both of them rubbing their temples. They're like, Jesus Christy.
Well, I mean, it's just, it goes to show like just why we love you and why we have you on, because your expertise is so valuable. Like I genuinely, and people should know, do you think it's fair for us to say like this is part of our contract? Like we happen to be doing it as a show. Yeah. But this was an actual consult.
This was a consult. I was paid for this. Yeah. Yeah. Like this was an actual consult, and like me knowing like both of them very well. Like obviously we were able to do this live and recorded, which is amazing, but also show you guys like
what the process is like,
and when they do get sponsors, why it's so freaking important for you to drive those sales, buy the products, talk about the podcast, share the podcast. That's why it's so important that when you guys are in the live feed, like all of those things really matter. And like you think that maybe it's just one share, but each person that shared it just thought it was just one share.
So you're saying that throughout our show, we should be reminding people, please share this podcast with anybody. Please
1,000%.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Leave us reviews, feedback.
Woo, that is something that we are not in the practice of, right, Mariah?
And like at the end of each episode, starting of each episode, hey, did you watch last week? I do like a recap. Like, hey, last Friday, we talked about XYZ things. If you guys are interested, totally go back. Make sure to like, review, subscribe to GGT. And we like appreciate all of you guys spending your time here.
I love it. You're an inspiration. And every time I hear you talk, and we've had this our third consult now, I've really felt inspired, and it's given me great direction. I am not gonna lie, there's so much to do that sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming.
If we feel a little overwhelmed, which I completely understand, I essentially gave you guys a mountain of work to do. Like how we'd break this down is by date. So I would have you guys say, okay, when can you guys work on these projects, and create the checklist. So kind of like we've done in the past, the checklist for things. All right, we can get this done by next Tuesday. We can get this done by next Thursday. We can start pitching by next Friday.
Got it.
That way it's not this like mountain of like, oh my gosh, when am I going to get this done? And divide tasks. This is an intern thing. This is a JD thing. This is a Mariah thing. Let's divide, conquer, knock this out. We want to be pitching by next Friday.
Got it.
And so I think if you guys do that, and we can literally write you a checklist, you'll be ready to rock and roll.
Yep. And then just make it the priority. Because with so many other things happening, and also producing, however many hours of content a week is a separate role, separate job than finding sponsorships for the content we're producing. Like two different, there's a lot of different hats that different people wear.
Yeah. And and you guys can do it. I appreciate you both so much. Yeah. And I'm so excited for the show. And I think you guys are going to kill it.
Thank you. Thanks, Christy.
Oh, well, guys, this is very fun. Thanks for hanging out at Casey and Connect Corner. And we will see you next Tuesday. Ta-ta for now.